Fishing Gurus podcast.
Come on then, Bob. I've got you here. I'm going to kick off with a weird one. Favourite film?
Favourite film? Have you ever watched? We're not talking about fishing, are we? Have you ever watched Zero Dark 30?
It rings a bell.
It's about when they actually got Bin Laden.
I have seen it.
I love watching true films, true stories, and that's a fabulous film.
He gets your heart racing. I remember it.
I've watched it 5 times.
Never.
Fabulous film. Fabulous from the start to the end. It's a proper film.
You seem quite into him. Is it a thing of yours to sit down and watch films?
Yeah, well, I do get a bit of time to watch films, and I've got everything. I've got Netflix, I've got Amazon, I've got Sky, so I've got everything there is to watch, and a big screen. So yeah, I like to watch a movie while Bernie's doing all her work, around the house. I can flick the thing up on the sofa, where it whizzes up, so you can lay out straight.
You've got a cinema room, basically, haven't you?
Like that, sort of.
What about this, Tobe? I went to do the planning for the podcast with Bob at his house. Bernie, his lovely lady, broccoli and Stilton soup, cheese and pickle sandwiches. He gets looked after, don't you?
Oh,
Proper
I do
feast.
get looked after. I don't even wash a cup.
Honestly.
I don't even put a cup in the dishwasher.
Never.
I don't ever take a cup out of the dishwasher. I don't ever do anything.
That's what you get when you're 4 times world champion.
But then I'll be up in my room preparing, making a rig, doing this, and that's my time. Is prep, and of course I love my match fishing, the same as yourself.
Fantastic. Well, Bob, it gives me great pleasure, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, to welcome you onto the Fishing Gurus podcast. I never thought in a million years, as a little lad, I would be sat in front of Bob Nudd asking him questions and doing a show.
Oh,
honestly.
That's lovely.
Swear to God, that is the God's honest truth.
But when you asked me to come, I was delighted. I had to put it through my boss. I had to ask my boss just to make sure. You always have to, don't you? But he was so keen. Bob, you got to do it.
Fantastic.
It's a credit to you as well, though, Bob, because you come in and we had Callum in earlier, didn't we? And we were doing the brews before the show. And when we said, Bob Nudd's coming in this morning, his face was just...
He didn't believe me. He didn't believe me.
No, Bob's not coming in, not to talk to you.
I said, he's in that room. Go and pop your head round. And I heard him go, Bob Nudd.
Yeah, so it's
amazing.
Brilliant. No, thank you for coming, Bob.
Pleasure to be here.
I've got to ask you this. I'm not official and formal, Bob, but I know that you have got an MBE. So am I meant to call you, is it Sir Bob Nudd or Bob Nudd MBE? Or how does that work?
No, it's only...
Oh, no. It'll go off.
That's right, that's just a drill.
I'll go again.
Go in from MBE, yep.
I've got to ask you first, Bob, because I'm not a formal person or anything, but I know you've got an MBE, so have I got to call you Bob Nudd at MBE or Sir Bob Nudd? How does that work?
Oh, it's strange, because a lot of people call me Sir Bob, don't they?
Yeah.
And they probably think it is, but no, you have to be knighted to be a Sir.
Right.
I've got an MBE, but that's usually mainly on your... When on your address, Bob Nudd, MBE, so-and-so, where you come from. So you don't say. If you write to me, you would put that. But
got you.
No, it means, massive word, most excellent order of the British Empire. That's what it means.
It's an honour, that.
Most excellent order of the British Empire. And that was for my services to angling.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, wonderful to get it, to be nominated for it and then get accepted. Yeah, it's good. And then actually the Queen, because you can get the Queen, you can get the Prince, you can get Princess Anne, King Charles now. To get the Queen to pin it on was good.
So did you shake her hand?
Shake her hand.
Wow.
And she chats to you, asks about your travelling, because she has somebody, an advisor with her, sort of, this is Bob Nudd, so-and-so. And then she's genuinely interested in fishing.
Amazing.
Because they're gaming people, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it was good to get it. It was good for angling. Yeah.
And there's a great picture to go with it as well.
There is. You look really happy there, Bob. Yeah, for anyone who's listening and can't see, it says Bob Nudd MBE. What paper's that, Bob?
I'm guessing that's Angling Times.
Right.
Yeah,
I think that it is. Yeah.
That would be Angling Times.
Bob's all suited and booted, hat in hand,
Yeah.
and he's skipping through London, I'm assuming that is?
Yeah, that's probably coming out of the palace itself. And there's Bernese on the left, and on the right is my ex-manager, who unfortunately has passed away. It's his wife.
Right. Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Bob Nudd MBE. Now I know what an MBE is, Tobes.
Yeah.
Kicking off from the very start, Bob, I hear of stories of how you started fishing, but I've never had it from yourself from the very early ages. How did it happen? Because I believe the match fishing side of things came a lot later.
Oh, yeah, miles later.
But have you always had an interest in angling?
Do you know what? If I'd have started young, I'd have been really good, wouldn't I? I'm sure I would have been.
20 times world champion.
Because I never had a father or anything. And we went fishing. My dad was... We were from a hard-working family. I've 3 sisters and myself. Bullying sisters, I will say.
Really?
And so we didn't... And back in those days, Matt, there was nothing else. There was football, cricket or fishing. There was nothing else.
And did you do the other sports
as well? There was no computers. There was nothing. Well, cricket. Yeah, I used to love cricket. That was my game. Fast bowler. Bob Nudd, fast bowler.
Really?
Ferocious. Well... Back in the day, 6 foot was tall. Now you're tiny if you're 6 foot tall. But I was 6 foot, so I was a big lad and hurling this hard ball down here. So I loved me cricket. But fishing, there was this beautiful lake where we lived in Little Waltham. It's a small village in Essex. And there was this beautiful lake which was private. Oh, I was always getting chucked out of it. But I used to go over there. But all you did was cut a stick from the hedge. You used to have to buy your line from the shop and a hook, and then I used to make a float up out of a bit of cork. And Mum used to mix me up some flour and water, so it was like a sticky paste. That's what you used to feed. I used to catch little roach, you know. And going back that far, which is sort of like, I'm not going to tell you how far back it was, but a long while ago, I can still smell that first fish that I caught, a little roach, probably about an ounce, you know. But I can still smell it.
Really?
Yeah, I can still that first. And there's lots of things that have happened in your life, but that first one. And then I used to go over to this lake lots, and so I wasn't a good angler. And then the River Chelmer ran on the sort of, it was only probably 200 or 300 yards from my house. I used to go down there and try to catch dace, but they were difficult. I could see them in the clear water, but couldn't really catch them. So that was my early days of getting hooked with fishing.
Lovely. Isn't it amazing to hear, though? Like Bob Nudd started with a stick and a bit of line and a cork. And
that's right. Didn't have any money.
Right.
So that's what you had. You couldn't afford rods or anything.
What was your sort of family background like, Bob? What did your parents do? Were you from a wealthy background?
No, just moderately. My father worked very, very hard. Mother as well. They were both working people. We only lived in a council house, so we were basic really. But the food was always very good. My dad was a butcher by trade, so we always had good meat. But I'd have said we were fairly not very well off. Not very well off.
And what about school? How was school for you? Were you academic?
Yeah, school was pretty good. Junior level, I was sort of well up in the class. I used to enjoy school. I did enjoy school, I must admit. And then at sort of, I went to Chelmer Valley High School, and I ended up a prefect and stayed on a little bit of extra time, actually, because you could leave school at 16, and I stayed on till I was 17.
Right.
Tried to learn a bit more. Then I went to served an apprenticeship.
And what did you do for work then after coming out of school? What were the first line of work for Bob Nudd? Well,
it was this company called Marconi's, which was an electronics company. Marconi was the first, I think it was the first one to transmit a message probably from Italy to England. But
wow.
Yeah, that was back in the 1920s, I think. So they were electronics companies, so I went to work for them. That was quite enjoyable. I ended up teaching. So I served an apprenticeship, and I was on the shop floor, and that was hard graft. Even just like at 21, you could do piecework, which meant you had a time to do your work.
Right.
And the harder you worked, the more money. And I was earning good money at 21, but it was hard work. So I thought, I want to get out of this. I'm going to get a job on staff. And so I got a job teaching in the apprentice training centre. So then at 22, 23, I was teaching other apprentices.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow.
But I went to college and everything and got. Oh, that's gone now, isn't it? But I suppose mathematics I learned a fair bit then, but we didn't. There wasn't even a calculator then, so everything was logarithms, anti-logarithms. Everything was much more complicated.
Very, very practical and hands-on.
Much more complicated than
Right.
it is now. So I had a tough life.
Up to 23.
Well, but then I was married quite young, 3 daughters, all spaced about 2 years apart.
Wow.
Then I was hard up.
Right, I bet that cost you a bob or two,
And I didn't, yeah.
3 daughters.
3 daughters. I didn't get much time to go fishing then. Used to work quite a bit, extra work. Used to work in a pub at nights.
Just to earn what you
just
needed
to earn
to.
more money, yeah.
Wow, interesting. And how did fishing unfold for you then? So we've got the start, and then you're drifting into working at Marconi's. How did your fishing and match fishing start?
Yeah, it was at Marconi's. There was a little club match called, a club called It was called Marconi Angling Club, and there was this. In fact, he was a fellow apprentice, Dennis Willis, his name. It was about, and I was teaching him, and he said, I was teaching him in the training centre, and he said, why don't you, and we were talking about fish. He said, why don't you come along and fish one of our matches? And I learned a bit off him. I was absolutely hopeless. And I mean, I was hopeless because I only just started. I was 22, 20. But I soon got the gist of it. But it was all stick floats and there wasn't any poles then.
So you hadn't done any match fishing before 22, 23?
No, none whatsoever.
Incredible.
None whatsoever. And then I was probably about 23. And I won 2 years. I was a club champion at Marconi's, and then I branched into the open match
You
circuit.
can't have been that bad then, Bob. Club champion for 2 years.
No, but there was a lot of worse anglers than me about that. It was like, if you think about it, can you remember the days of Benny Ashurst winning, 300 and 400 peggers? If you think about it in there's a lot of people went fishing, but there was probably, out of all them 300, probably only 5 good anglers, weren't there? Or, there weren't 300 good anglers then, was there?
So you're saying the standard weren't as high back then?
Nowhere near. So
that's interesting
so
to
I
hear.
got through, but I did get into the actual mechanics of fishing. I did enjoy the rhythm of catching fish.
Was you must have been quite self-taught then, Bob, being in that environment. You're not fishing with the England team at this stage or anything, so you just taught yourself.
Everything. Yeah, everything was self-taught then. And even the early days fishing the big Winter League matches, which were 12, 14 teams of 12 anglers.
Big matches.
Big matches, yeah. And Marconi's, we won it one year. We won the actual Winter League.
Wow.
And that really what started me off. And we went to the Winter League semi-final. I think we forget where it was. Probably on the Bristol Avon, I think. Somewhere like that. Somewhere where I was miles out of my depth. But
And it was all natural sort of venues then,
yes.
I'm assuming,
Oh,
Bob.
yeah, there was no commercials then. No
Rivers, canals.
Yeah, no commercial waters at all. So it was all maggots, casters, waggler, stick float. There was no poles then.
Incredible.
Can you believe that?
Right, so you're part of the generation that sort of saw poles come through into match fishing.
Yeah, and that's probably why I was very fortunate.
And where did it progress from there then, Bob? Like, we've got this club fishing, Marconi's. It sounds like a good club if they're winning winter leagues.
Oh yeah, there were some good anglers.
Where did you go from there to?
Well, from there I went to fishing the odd open match. Like when I was 26, I won my first big open.
Where were that?
On the Ouse. I think it was Offord Clooney on the Ouse. It was Ivan Marks was there, Tom Bedder. There was all the Midland anglers were there, and it was a massive match. And I drew well. I drew an end peg above the weir, so the water wasn't flowing very hard. And I fished a slider. God knows how I fished a slider, but I fished a slider. But I caught deuce feeding casters. I reckon we must have been throwing bait then. I'm not even sure there was catapults then.
Never.
I'm not sure there was catapults. And I won the match with £12 of caster roach.
And what we're talking, 100 peg plus match?
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
And what were the payout like back then?
Oh, it was nothing. Because I know the pools were £2.
Flipping it.
£2.
£2?
Yeah, but there's a lot of money then for me. I'm probably only earning a tenner a week or something. But yeah. So I probably wouldn't have won much money. Probably would have got 30 quid or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. But that was my first. I was 26 then. My first big open match.
And did you get a taste for it quick? Obviously, winning a big match like that at such a young age.
Not really. No. I still love match fishing. I love the teams and that sort of thing. But it was Ireland that really catapulted me into the larger world.
Right.
Into the larger world with much better anglers
And how did you end up obviously getting from this going into the open matches to being on the Irish scene? Were there anything to fill that sort of gap?
Not really. We were getting reports from Ireland of these massive weights of roach. And of course the tourist board wanted us to get over there. They wanted us, and this was I think Ian Heaps. Yeah, 1976, Ian Heaps got the world record, 166 pounds, 9.5 ounces of roach.
Yeah.
I wasn't there then, but everybody was talking about it. God, I would love to go to Ireland, but
that's a phenomenal weight. Like now, that blows my mind. So back in 1976, that must have been unheard of.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was because obviously there was no carp waters then, and he'd caught I don't know how many fish. But he won it, and that really stirred. And I thought, I'd love to go to Ireland. No, I'd love to go.
And why couldn't you go? Was there any reason?
Because of the troubles. There was a real problem, with bombs in hotels and.
And was it affecting fishermen?
Yeah. Oh, yes, it was. Well, it didn't really affect fishermen then. But it did worry you. When you're driving along on a dark night and suddenly you'd see a red light from a distance in the middle of the road, but it was just the police stopping just to check you. And I first went on the River Suck at Ballinasloe, so that was Southern Ireland, safe there. And yeah, I had absolutely no idea really, because we went down to the River Suck, and the first day we got there, we were all excited. I was with my friend Peter Clapperton.
Oh yeah, Pete from obviously got Vandenay.
Yeah,
Vandenay,
County. Yes. So Peter and another one, an accountant called Jerry Allen. He's still my accountant now. I spoke to him the other day. Yeah.
Wow.
Still does all my accounts over that many years.
Fantastic.
And we went down to the Suck. We piled in. I don't know how we got the ground bait down to the peg, but we piled in loads and loads of bait, and then we cast out. We're all sitting together, and we never had a bite. No idea. So that's how hopeless we were. I mean, hopeless.
First time to Ireland.
Yeah, hopeless.
Didn't have a bite.
No.
Did you catch later on?
We did catch, and then Ivan. That's when I first got to know Ivan, and he taught me how to make maggots float.
We're talking Ivan Marks,
Ivan Marks.
Legend.
Oh, yeah, Ivan, yeah. I got to know him ever so well, and we were good friends, and we fished together lots after that. But putting maggots in, just half covering them with water, really fresh maggots, and he was catching loads of these big rudd, casting over on the far bank with a bomb, straight lead, and a long tail, and catching these big. And I said, how are you doing that? And he said, well, I'm using floating maggots, because I didn't know. And he showed me, and he taught me then, and of course that's how really.
I have so much respect for that though, Bob. Like you're talking, what's that? 60 years ago nearly. Yeah. Ivan's doing floating maggots, and on social media today, people are doing videos on how to do. He was doing it in the 70s.
Yeah, he was.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's when I was first introduced to it. He knew about it, whether it happened by accident and they suddenly thought, these maggots got damp and they started to float, and that's probably what did happen. And so, but the following, and I did okay that year, but the following year we won the team match. Peter Clapperton, myself, it was teams of 3. We went back to the Suck and we won the team match. I probably didn't contribute very much, but I can't remember the result. But we won that, and really that got me into Ireland. Then the next year, which would be 1978, the third, we went to the north.
And what was that like?
And that's really, go on.
Because obviously you're telling me about all this trouble.
Oh, we were still frightened. Yeah, we were frightened about going.
And it's still there. The trouble's still there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Still lots of problems, and that's what catapulted me into the big time.
Tell me about the north, because that sounds like it's got a real buzz to it.
Well, the north is where we went, you've got the River Erne, you've got Lower Loch Erne below it, which runs out to the sea, and you've got Upper Loch Erne, and you've got the River Erne, quite a small river in between. And what was happening was roach were only recently introduced into the system.
So they're not naturally occurring?
No radar, but roach were introduced by pike anglers, bringing them over from England for live baits.
I never knew that.
Yeah, so they weren't naturally, they're indigenous to Ireland. So
wow, I never.
And when
knew
you
that.
get a new species, if you get something invasive, they take over, don't they, for a while? And that's what happened to the roach. Massive explosion of roach. Massive. Shoals. Dennis Salmon used to say, "Oh, that shoal's 6 miles long," he said, all the way from... he used to exaggerate. He was our manager. Lovely person, our Dennis. But unfortunately, another one that's left us. So I got there. This is. Can I tell you about the match?
No, what match was it though?
Well,
Bob,
right,
first?
it was called the Benson and Hedges.
I've heard of this.
Massive festival, 350 pegs, 3 days. So you fish a Monday, then you had a break on the Tuesday, then you fish the Wednesday, break, and then you fish on the Friday. So
Like the classic in Ireland now. Almost.
same, yeah, it's the same match. It's been going that long.
Flipping heck,
Yeah,
wow.
1978 was my first year.
And what was it like?
Shall I tell you about it?
First time in the north.
And that's really is definitely what catapulted me into other things. Well, the north was okay. I'm trying to think where we stayed. I've stayed at so many different places in Ireland, but there was 3 of us travelling together. It was myself, Peter Clapperton, and another lad, Barry Charlick, another good friend, fishing friend.
Yeah.
And we were sharing the money as you do. And I can remember my first day. There was this, obviously, the roach were just phenomenal. Loads and loads of roach coming through. And my first day, I drew at this farm. And as I walked, this was the Monday, we all had to get on coaches. We had to load all our gear onto coaches. I had a wicker basket then.
Not a lot of gear.
No, couldn't have had a lot of gear. I did have a pole, like a 5 or 6 metre pole. And when we stopped at this farm, unloaded, got off the coach, walked down, there was a boat. The first section I fished, there was some of us had to go across, but I drew this side. And as I walked down, it was one of those calm days. Fish are topping everywhere. Unbelievable.
What time of year is it, Bob, this?
This is May, very early May. Beautiful, sunny, warm, gorgeous. It was a gorgeous week altogether. And I would have caught on the pole. I know that. I would have probably set up it was quite deep, so I probably wouldn't have set up a waggler. Might have set up a slider and a pole, not much, and a feeder rod, I should think. But I'm not sure that I set up a feeder rod. Probably didn't. Because you're catching roach. So I don't even know if I had a feeder rod then.
Wow.
I don't know. So I would have had a feeder rod, but wouldn't have used it. So and the match starts, and the water's just flowing nicely, and I would have been. I can't quite remember but I would have been on the pole, and I know that I caught 50 pound, 52 pounds, something like that of roach.
Did you win with that?
No, I was third. But they paid 3 in a section. They were 25 peg sections, so still quite big, isn't it?
£50 a roach, third in your section.
Yeah, of 25, yeah.
That's ridiculous fishing. Ridiculous.
Yeah, so £50 of nice, because they were quite good size roach. I think Mark Downs won that section, you know. He must have been really young then.
I bet he were.
Because I was fairly young, and he must have been, he must have been really young. So so I had 52 pound. And I thought, oh, well, that's all right. Not too bad. And a few drinks, because, you know, the pubs never close.
And you won some money for coming third.
Oh, yeah. I'm guessing it would have been £20 or something like that. Not massive, but it would have been reasonable. Yeah, 20 odd, but a lot of money then to me. And so, of course, I was burning it every night because the pubs didn't close.
And
So
what was it like in the pubs? What were like the
Oh,
nightlife
lovely,
like?
lovely. There was always something going on. People playing, people singing, anglers getting up singing.
Did everyone go out? Everyone
I
on the
know
mat?
where I stayed. I stayed in the Killyhevlin Hotel, which is like the premier hotel.
Mhm.
I was in one of the chalets, I think. Yeah, I stayed in one of the chalets. That's right. We were in one of the chalets then. Killyhevlin, beautiful hotel. And yeah, we were in the actual Killyhevlin was the main hotel where everything went on. You know, they didn't have the draw there, but a lot of the evening entertainment went on there. And so I stayed in there and they just never closed.
Right.
Never closed at all. I didn't see them close. I wasn't ever thrown out. But there was a hotel, so you could, as long as you were a guest, you could drink anyway forever.
Were there loads of anglers who you knew there? Big names of fishing at the
yeah,
time?
big names. Yeah, Kevin Ashurst,
Wow.
Ivan was there. There was lots of anglers from the north and the northwest more. Alan Mayer. There was lots that you probably wouldn't have heard of even, but they were sort of famous in my eyes.
Yeah.
Wayne Swinscoe.
Swino?
A lot of the top anglers of the Trent were all there as well. You
Great
know.
experience. And what happened for the rest of the week?
Oh, well,
obviously, good result to start.
Yeah, and then we have the Tuesday we had a day off, so that was good, but went fishing somewhere, I don't know. And the Wednesday, I did have another goodish, I don't know if I had a good draw, but I had another good day where I caught 60-odd pound. I think I was on the pole again, I would have been. 62 pound or 60-something pound of roach again at this Corrigan's farm.
That's ridiculous.
And I was a third in the section again. More money. More money for me to go and spend. So, and that was all okay, and I'd been drinking, and we were having a fabulous week because the fishing, you imagine when you're going and you're setting your tackle up and you're going to get a bite almost every cast in a match. It's good, isn't it?
Off roach, like
Yeah,
6 ounce, 8
and
ounce.
you're throwing in ground bait with, we probably didn't have many casters then. We'd have had a few casters, but mainly maggots and casters in your ground bait. That would have been pretty basic. We wouldn't have been loose feeding then. We'd have definitely been throwing balls of ground bait. We were.
If you've come in third in your section with 62 pound of roach, what sort of weight's winning the match?
100 odd.
£100 of roach?
100 odd pounds every day. Somebody was winning it with. I wasn't doing. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, would you?
That sounds like heaven.
Kevin had 2 days of over £100.
Kevin Ashurst.
Yeah, he was winning because he was way ahead of everybody.
Did you know Kevin then, Bob? I know
No,
you're good
didn't.
friends.
No, I didn't know him then. Didn't know him at all.
Wow.
No, that's probably our first meet, you know, and then we progressed from there. But I got to know him more on the river ban.
Got ya.
And so anyway, I'll have to tell you about this. So the Thursday night, we're going into the pub again, another session. But as I walked into the Killyhevlin Hotel,
Yeah.
just as I went in the entrance, they got a big blackboard up. And chalked on there was, actually Kevin was at the top. First, Kevin Ashurst, and it went all the way down. They'd got the top 20 anglers.
Right.
And they were all names that I knew. And then it got down to 20, and there was Bob Nudd, £110. 20th place. And I looked at it, oh, I'm in 20th. Oh, that's not so bad. And I'd had a couple of wins. So another big session, too big.
This is the night before the final match.
This was the Thursday, yeah. Yeah, we weren't so serious then.
Right.
What time did you get to bed?
Oh, wow.
Or do I dare ask?
Well, I came out and it was daylight at the pub. I come out of the pub. It is May, so it does get light fairly early. But, but I'm guessing it was probably 5 o'clock.
You just had a couple of Coca-Colas and a
Yeah,
shandy.
normal
and
thing,
an orange
yeah.
juice to end.
But it's just because it was just fabulous, the entertainment and everything. And I wasn't the only one. I'm sure I wasn't the last one out. I'm sure there were still people left in there. And I thought, I looked at my watch, 5. I thought, oh, I've overdone it a bit today. But we weren't serious.
Right.
We weren't serious. We didn't have the right gear or anything. So anyway, into bed. And we, of course, overslept. and Peter overslept and Barry so we raced down to the three of us raced down to the forum where they used to have the draw. Nobody there. They were all on coaches waiting. All these coaches were all waiting. Raced in. There was just in this tub 4 pegs left.
You're seriously late then, aren't you?
4 pegs left. No draw, no cue, nothing. Just 4 pegs left in this. Peter goes in. I forget where he drew, and then Barry goes in and draws. So there must have been somebody who didn't turn up because there was only 3, and there was 2 pegs left when I went in, and I drew this peg. C30. Now C section was corner grade, which was the premier section. That's where you wanted to be because every peg was on a platform where you walked out onto the water, whereas a lot of it was on natural bank, which is not so good. But corner grade, there was 30 pegs all on these, and they were brilliant platforms where you walk right out on a platform, big platform, and you're there right over the fish in deep water straight away. So you're going to be at an advantage.
Lovely.
That's where you wanted to be.
That's a platform there. Yeah.
Fabulous. Then that picture was taken the next day.
So that's on that peg that we're talking about.
Same peg, C30, corner grade. If you look down where you got the entrance, see the trees at the bottom?
Yeah.
Either side, and you can see a blank. That's a weir there. That runs into Lower Loch Earn.
So
there's only Lower Loch Earn and me, and the fish all in between. You know,
no one that way.
No, I'm the first one. Come here, boys. I'm the first one. I'm the first one they arrive at. So of course, in fishing, it just keeps topping up. Then if you've got so much more room, you just keep catching.
Right.
So I knew it was a good peg. I was so much of an unknown. They had to do this the next day because nobody was watching me that day.
So this is a setup the day after.
Oh yeah, hopeless setup. Look, but I've still got wicker basket. But I had a massive maggot tray. The big 3-gallon trays that you get.
Yeah.
I had that full of ground bait. But if you think about it, you have to bend down and pick the ground. We don't have no side trays or anything.
Bob, you've literally sat on a basket, aren't you?
I don't know where my bait was. I can't even imagine where my bait was. You didn't. You don't have anything.
No, nothing. What happened? What happened on the match? That's what I want to know.
Right. So anyway, I'd overdone it. So I'd drawn this peg C30, and it's another beautiful day. Fish were topping everywhere. Plop, plop, plop. Unbelievable. And there'd been some reasonable weights off the section, so I knew. Even I'm not that stupid. I knew it was going to be a good day. So I've mixed up all my ground bait, set up a 5 metre pole, 5 metre, 3. I probably only had 1 pole, 3 gram float, a size 12 model perfect, which was like a gold hook.
You remember everything, don't you? Everything.
No, not that good, but I do remember that. A size 12 model perfect. They were about the only hooks we used, and they weren't that good. They used to break. Probably had to change it a couple of times in the match. The actual hook broke.
Wow.
But sometimes when a hook breaks, it means the steel is quite tough, doesn't it? Quite a hard. If you get a hook these days, if it's a really hard and don't move at all, they're a good hook. You can sharpen them really well. So probably a bit like that, but they actually used to break. So anyway, walks out of this fish topping everywhere. Unbelievable. Now, I wasn't feeling 100%. I do admit to that. I wasn't 100%.
And it wasn't sunstroke.
So anyway, so 1 pole, that's all I said. I didn't, 1 pole, didn't set a feeder. I know I didn't. 1 pole, 3 gram. I know exactly what the rig was. So 1 pole, 1 rig.
Can you remember the float?
Yeah, I made it myself.
Homemade float?
Homemade float, yeah. I'd been to one of Ian Heaps's road shows the year before, and he'd talked about floats now to make them. So I'd gone and made my own float. Nice bristle. Exactly shot at it like he said. How he used to shot up, positive, and then quite a big dropper on it. Ball of ground bait. Anyway, the match starts and ball of ground bait. I just dropped it in and the float just carried on going. 3 maggots on a 12, just a ball, just carried on going. And that went on the first hour, 100 fish.
Wow.
The second hour, 99 fish. The third hour, 98. the fourth hour probably 102. I finished up with I think 496 or 498 fish.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
What weight?
166 pounds 9 ounces.
Wow.
Flipping.
Which was just half an ounce short of the world record. Then
No.
nearly broke the world.
Half an ounce short?
Yeah.
How does that work? Half an ounce?
I don't know. It could be in the scales, could be in anything, couldn't it?
I'd be asking for a recount there, wouldn't you?
166 pound of fish this big.
Yeah.
And you're half an ounce off the world record.
Yeah, that's as close as that. But I can remember fish going over my shoulder, flying off. I honestly can remember. I can remember looking around and seeing a roach going bouncing down the jetty behind me before it dropped in. I thought,
I'm assuming you did
I'll
well.
tell you what you would have had then. About 280.
No
You
chance.
would have done. With today's stuff. Yeah, you would have done.
Did you win?
Yeah, I won the match, yeah.
Phenomenal.
Can you imagine how it feels for a sort of like a completely unknown, which I was, completely unknown, not completely, but virtually, to win something like that? Can you imagine the feeling it gives you on a 300 Nudd pegger? You know you're on a good peg, obviously. But I knew I fished. I didn't fish that bad. I knew I'd got everything in sync.
How, like you say, I didn't have much gear and we weren't serious, right? I'm a match angler and I know how good you are at fishing. Like, technically, were the things that you had to get right to catch that kind of weight back then?
Well, what you had to do then was obviously you had to have the right length of line on your pole so the fish came to you. So we didn't have any elastic or anything like that. It was coming direct off a flick tip. Quite a stiff flick tip. So them sort of things I had right. I hadn't got a soft flick tip where the fish was bouncing. It was coming out pretty well to me because you've got a 12 hook on, so you can fish quite heavy. And it was a rhythm really of feeding with your left hand nicely.
Yeah.
A good hard ball with your left hand, and then sort of going right on the ball. And then as you lift the fish up, the unhooking thing is quite easy. You've got to just make sure that you can unhook the fish if you get it. So you're unhooking the fish, still holding the pole. So you're unhooking it, and you're out dropping the fish in. So those sort of things I could do. I knew about that. I probably taught myself how to be efficient at doing that. So that sort of thing I could do. And you still, you've got to catch 500. Good roach, you got to be on. But I know I was lucky, Matt.
It's still an incredible
but
day's
the
fishing,
feeling
Bob.
when you're an unknown of winning a massive match and you've got all your heroes there. Now Kevin had caught over £100 every day. I still didn't win the festival. Kevin won it.
Never.
He'd have caught over £100 every day.
Flipping.
And so I finished second. But I catapulted from 20th to second place.
What were people's reactions, Bob? What did they say to you? Did they approach
they probably
you?
couldn't believe it. They probably. I know when they announced, they were talking about. They announced the winner. Today's winner, and today's winner from Chelmsford, Bob Nudd, and everyone goes, Bob who that? Bob who? And I know can remember Wayne Swinco saying Wayne, because I knew Wayne, we'd fished a bit together.
Yeah.
And I can remember him saying, well, don't worry about him, he's okay. And that sticks in my mind.
Wow.
Yeah, Wayne saying something like that. Why would you? He did.
They weren't wrong, were they? He weren't wrong.
Probably not. But that's what catapulted me into match fishing.
That was the first sort of major event.
But that's fate, isn't it? That's where fate has guided you. That's where life has brought you. A bit of good fortune. That's what life does for you. It guides you in one way or the other. You're lucky or unlucky. I was very fortunate.
How did that match and that event and you catching all them fish, how did that steer you next? Where did you go from there? Did it do anything in terms of getting you into the international side of things? Or?
Well, I fell in love with Ireland from then. So then every opportunity, which wasn't always so much because I was working. So every opportunity I was in Ireland, I won another festival. Then I started to fish on the Ban, and I was going over to Ireland and doing fairly well. I soon developed that sort of winning way. And it wasn't until 6 years later, I was pushing to try and get in the England team, but Stan Smith was the manager.
Okay.
And I think Kevin had put a word in for me. And I got picked to fish a home international in Scotland. That was waggler fishing, roach, and I won my section. I thought, lovely.
How old are you at this point, Bob? Do you mind me asking?
No, I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to... If you do a Wikipedia thing, you can find out how old I am and how much I'm worth. But...
No, not now.
No.
How old was you when you fished for England?
Yeah, but if I tell you then, you won't know.
I'm going to go on Wikipedia then.
So, God knows. I was in my 30s, wouldn't I be?
Wow. So it's not an early start to fish for England.
No,
that's the thing.
Definitely not. No, definitely not. So, no, I was, I started ever so late. As I say, I wish I could have had that opportunity of the earlier, but we didn't have the equipment or anything then. So really, Stan Smith, I thought, I'm going to get in the team. But then Stan Smith was sacked and Dick Clegg was made manager, 1984.
Right.
And I thought, I'm not going to get in now. And then I got a phone call from Dick.
And what did he say?
He said, I want you to be part of the squad, Bob. He said, I don't think you'll get in the team, he said, but I want you to come along for the experience. There's 6 in the squad. Do you know what? They were all Northerners.
Was they really?
Northern anglers are better than Southerners. Or they were then. I think things have changed because we've got Will and Stevie Gardner and a few others now. But I just think the base of top anglers are from the Northwest.
That's interesting to hear.
I think they are.
Wow. Who was in that team then, Bob, when you say they were mainly Northerners? Can you remember who the other
five were?
Yeah,
there was Kevin.
Yeah.
Tommy
Pickering.
Dennis
White.
Ian Heaps. And the other one was Alan McAtee.
I've heard of Alan
McAtee and myself. So there's 5 Northerners and myself.
Right.
He said, I've heard that the match was in Switzerland. And he said, I've heard, Bob, he said that there's going to be pole fishing to hand. And I had earned a reputation in Ireland of catching good weights on the pole. After that weren't just that one. I was winning other things as well.
The Ban Bonanza, I always remember.
Yeah, I was winning on the ban. And so I was doing okay. I was improving. So I was doing all the things that you would want to do. And he said, it's going to be pole fishing to hand, Switzerland. He said, I want you to come along. He said, I don't think you'll be in the team, he said, but just for the experience. So we got to Switzerland and it was a small river. What was it called? The town was Yverdon, Yverdon, Yverdon in Switzerland. And it was a tiny river, about 10 metres wide.
Not a big venue for a World Champs.
No, but it was coming down from the mountains, so it was sort of like... It was a river like that, I suppose. It was definitely, you could definitely a slope all the way down. So the water, if there was water coming through, it came through fast. If it didn't, it was sort of steady.
Yeah.
Weren't many fish in it.
What species was it?
No, there was a few days, perch, odd bream, but it was really tough. But it was a fair bit in the early time of loose feeding. And it was only, I'm trying to think, it was only about 4 or 5 foot deep as well. 6 foot. It was like a nothing venue, really tough to fish. But I could put a float through. I'd learnt a lot on the ban. I could put a float through nicely and feed nicely. And I did ever so well. I didn't win the trials. Kevin was top in the trials, but I was well up there.
Got you.
So Dick couldn't, he put me in.
Even though he said he probably wouldn't.
Yeah, and Alan McAtee didn't make the team, so I got in the team. When you're in a squad, you do have to fight for your place, which is unfortunate for the one that's left out. But you do really have to fight. I mean, you must have experienced it.
Sometimes it gets quite nasty in
that's right.
You have to battle.
Yeah, if you don't do well, you might even be drawn out of it. That might be your place in the team, so you have to do So I did enough. But another night of things going wrong. So we got all our team planned. The biggest floats we had were 2 grams. 2 grams. We were mainly catching perch, a bit of bloodworm and joker. That was the main bait. But the night before the match, it rained and it rained and it rained and it rained. It never stopped. We got to our pegs in the morning and it was still raining.
Oh, no.
The river was like a torrent. None of us had experienced it. And I was looking at it and I was thinking, and this is really where my band experience come in. If you're fishing, you know this, but I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to people that might want to be listening. But when you're fishing, if you haven't got a float big enough with you, you have to overshot your float. The water was ripping through. So, and so you've got to try and slow this float down if you can. Try and slow it down as much as you can.
Are you allowed to do that in the World Champs?
Not now.
You're not now, are you? I was just going to say, I've got Bob Nudd might be revealing that he's cheated in a World Championship, but obviously not. Back then, it wasn't the rule.
Well, the rule was your float mustn't impede the flow, which is a stupid rule, isn't it? Because how can you do... You've got a raging torrent, you can only fish float.
Yeah.
You wouldn't catch anything unless you slowed your float down somehow.
So you've got to... Yeah.
And if you slowed it down without overshotting it would lay flat.
Yeah.
So... I was putting these, so I got this float, I put one swan shot on, looking at it, it was still flying through, put another swan shot. So I overshot it by about 3 swan, which is quite a bit. So you've more than doubled the weight. So I've now got a 2 gram float and it is now a 5 or 6 gram.
And that's so you can slow that bait down.
What it does, it makes you, of course, as the float tries to go under, it makes you hold it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It makes you hold it to try and keep it up. And then the secret is, and I learned this, and I won so much money on the band doing this, that if you can get that perfect point, so if you can get exactly the right overshotting, you mustn't have it too much, so that you can then let the float go. You mustn't hold it dead still because it'll still come out even if it's overshotted. If you can get that where the bristle is just showing and just ease it through, and get that, just looking for that little dink. It's hard to do, especially when it's windy. And that's what I did. So I'd overshotted the float and I thought, well, I've got to use ground bait now. So I'm throwing a ball of ground bait. No pole cups then. So I'm throwing a ball of ground bait. That's feeding is always the key.
Is that something you learnt in Ireland, Bob?
Yeah. And I've learned it throughout my fishing career.
I've seen you do it. You're very, very accurate throwing ground bait.
I am, but no matter what the feeding is, whether it's loose feeding, you've got to know that, haven't you? You've got to know what you've got to do to feed. It wasn't a difficult match because I just had to feed in the right place and then hold me float. But I caught £9 of dace. £9 of dace. The best day I'd ever had. Better than when the river wasn't flowing.
And did you do well with that?
Second in the section.
Fantastic.
The only person that beat me was a Frenchman, and they'd got their floats sorted. They weren't using. There was no flat floats then, but they were using. If you can't have a flat float, you had to have a round-bodied float. Is the best. A completely round body is the best. If you think about it, if you've got a round body, you've got equal flow over the float and under the float, haven't you? So that's the best for holding it.
Yeah, it doesn't ride up.
Not as much.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if you've got a slope the other way, then it's worse. If you've got a float that's too bulbous at the top, it's hard when you're striking. So
got you.
So we didn't have anything to do, but the French knew what to do. So I had a brilliant day, and I came second, and I was the only one. In those days, there was only one match. There's only one match for the team, and then the following day you'd fish the individual.
Wow, I never knew
3
that.
hours, yeah.
So the team match is on, say, the Saturday, and the individual world champs. It's a separate match.
Yes, and you had to be top 4 in your section to get into the individual, and I was the only Englishman to get through.
How did the England team do on your first one?
We were second, but we tied on points with Belgium, and they beat us on weight.
So you got a bronze medal?
No, we got a silver medal. We're second.
Oh, right.
We're second.
Got you.
They had the gold. The Belgium won the gold. England. So my first experience was
silver medal.
Silver medal, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, second in section. So that was another night of too much drink, I suppose.
So you have qualified for the individual the next day.
Yeah.
And how was that?
Hopeless.
No good.
No. only the first 3 pegs in the whole match caught fish. Everybody else blanked. I blanked.
What, because it was flooded and...
Yeah, it was the venue was, it was a different venue a different venue completely.
Different river?
Nobody had ever fished it.
This is messing with my mind.
I know, mess with my mind. Totally different river.
Wow, when did all this format change, Bob?
I'm guessing, let's see. Now, Dick Clegg would have had a lot of influence on this because he was very good as events manager. He was really up to it. I reckon in 1988, that was in Belgium on the Dammer Canal. That was a 2-dayer. What was prior to Belgium? When did Tommy win? That would have been a 2-dayer.
Plovdiv.
That would have been a 2-dayer. 87?
89, I think.
Was it 89?
Might have been 89, 87. It was definitely late 80s, Plovdiv, Bulgaria.
I reckon it's 87.
Right.
I reckon 87.
So around that time. I bet so many people listening will not know about that rule.
Was it? But it might have been after then. I don't know. But definitely a 2-dayer in Belgium. Italy was only a 1-dayer, 85. Portugal was only a 1-dayer the following year, 86. 87, where were we in 87? 87, we were in France.
You've got a good memory, Bob.
France, 87, we were in France. Yeah, you're right, 89 for Tommy, wasn't it? Yeah, 87. I reckon 88 was when it was a 2-dayer. Yeah, 87.
Very interesting.
Yeah, 87, we were on the French-German border, Strasbourg. Yeah.
And what about, obviously, I know what you've won, and I'm sure a lot of people listening do, and I'm going to ask you a lot about them, because I want to hear about each and every one. Tell me about winning the World Championships for the first time. We've got 4 to talk about, Bob, 4 of them. Yeah. When was the first time that you won the gold medal?
Yeah, fabulous. Another fabulous feeling, like when you have any big match win. That was 1990. In Yugoslavia then.
So it's a 2-day match at this point.
Yeah, River Drava. And it was big, powerful river, deep. But to my advantage, it was just like the ban.
Really?
To be truthful, it was just like the ban.
So everything you'd learned you could apply?
Yeah, 10-gram floats, overshotting. The overshotting expert, that's me. And myself and Kevin, of course. Kevin was the same.
And what team was it then, Bob? Who were in the team then?
Well, it's very similar. It was myself, Tommy, Dennis, Kevin, and
who else would it have been then?
Mark Downs.
Right, wow.
Now, who was reserve? Was Dennis reserve? Trying to think. Stevie wasn't fishing then, I don't think.
Right,
was he?
Right.
No, Stevie might have been fishing.
1990, Yugoslavia.
Yeah, Stevie was fishing. No, Stevie would have been in the team. So who wouldn't? Dennis perhaps didn't make the team then.
Right.
Because Stevie definitely would have made the team.
Big, deep, powerful venue.
Yeah, it was 10-gram floats. No fish.
Really? Difficult?
So hard. So difficult.
What species were they to catch, Bob? What were you fishing for?
We were fishing for, I don't know the name of it. They were like a big gudgeon. Probably 3, 4, 5 ounces a piece. Or a small barbel, I suppose. But they were like a big gudgeon, I'd have said. Kevin called them cigars. And there was some roach there, an odd bream, very odd bream. A few roach. There was hardly anything. I think it was because it was so difficult to fish. And because we didn't have flat floats then, there was no flat floats. That was prior to flat float being invented. So you couldn't hold your bait dead still. So you had to put your float in. The river was running through probably 5-6 metres deep, ripping through. So then you've got to have your ground bait right. You've got to throw it right. And hey, there was no limit on poles then. You could fish. I think I finished, I know on the first day, no, not the second day. The first day I finished up fishing probably 17 metres.
Wow.
With a banana. So
what were a 17-metre pole like in 1990?
Well, they were softer anyway, but then you had parallel luckily enough, you had parallel extensions. So from sort of 13, everything was parallel.
So different rules internationally back then.
Yeah.
Because obviously 13 metre limit now.
Yeah. So you could fish any distance. Good job you can, because I had to start at 14, 14 and a half, 14 probably, and then go further out as you're not catching a fish and start another feeding line. But it was so difficult. I don't know how many fish I caught the first day. Not a lot.
I think that's the first day catch shot there.
No, that's second day.
Oh, was it the second day?
Second
Yeah, look,
day.
I've got a massive bream. Yeah. That was. I had a lovely easy day that day. That was a nice easy day. But the first day I caught about 10 or 11 of these cigars. But out of 33 pegs, there was 29 blanks in my section. That's how hard it was.
That's nails, Bob. Absolute nails.
That's how hard it was.
And tactically,
and I won the section.
Tactically, what did you do? How did you feed? What baits? How did you present it?
We got the ground bait really sticky. Fishing two double bloodworm over depth, just not too much over depth. Probably, I'm guessing, probably 5 or 6 inches over depth. And just once again, this art which I'd learned, and in practice, Kevin and myself finished top in practice.
Well, every day throughout the week.
Yeah, it was either Kevin or me that were winning.
That's Ireland, that kicking in, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the ban. That's the ban. So we're going in, so fishing 10 gram floats, round bodied floats, no flat floats in, as I said. So you're putting your float in, and then you've got to throw your ground bait in the right place, as always. Sticky ground bait, making sure it get down. There was a bit of gravel. I think we were using a bit of gravel in it then as well, but not as. We were so far out of touch with what happens today. You probably think, whatever the hell are they doing, But it was difficult then, because we didn't have all the modern stuff.
No,
you had to sort it out yourself, and I was probably. One treble A overshotted. It weren't a massive amount of overshot, maybe 2. But putting this art that I said, if you don't get that right, you don't get the bite. Of putting it in and just letting your pole go down at the speed that you think you're going to get that bite. And that's by the amount of overshotting you put on. So the more you put on, the slower. So you wanted a little bit of pace to go through, because they did take it, but you wouldn't get a bite going through at pace. Of course, a lot of anglers couldn't do it. So,
what do you think's happening under the water, Bob, when you're doing that? Do you think it's so your hook bait's the first thing that gets to the fish?
Yes, yeah.
And all your rig's nice and straight? Do you think that's...
Yeah, because you're hanging on to it. So so your bait's in front. If you drop it in and let it run through, obviously your bait's then behind. But if you're holding it and laying it in properly, then you're hanging on to it, and so it's just creeping through. But the art is the feeding, isn't it? It's getting that ball there in the right place when you throw it. No pole cups, remember.
That's incredible.
This was and you had to be accurate, you had to stand up every time. So you got your pole between your legs, real art, whole pole between your legs, you're looking, getting that ball really right, and where's it got to go in relationship to the depth and the flow, and where you're getting your bites, where's it got to go to get down, and that's the real.
And it's 14 metre, 15, 16, 17 metre poles. It's not easy, that.
I just can't explain how hard it is, but I'd done so much of it, it was easy. I'd done so much of it was easy. Not perfect, but easy, because you can tell by how many fish I caught to the rest of the section.
Hard fishing, but rewarding if you got it right, sort of thing.
But the second day...
So you won the section?
Won it. Easy, blitzed it. Yeah, only 4 people caught.
Phenomenal.
And I didn't just have one fish, I had about 10 or 11 of these cigar things.
Okay.
But the second day I had a good draw. I drew, when I got to my peg, I thought, I've not seen a peg like this before. It was just nice and steady. It was upstream. It wasn't an end peg, and a Dutch angler on it the previous day had blanked. So
it can't have been that good then, Bob.
Well, I thought it was good, because I put a 3 gram float up and it just crept through lovely. I thought, ooh, I like this, and I did like it. We had a team plan where we had to catch a fish with a little, fishing down the edge, but I gave it about 10 seconds. And
chucked it up the bank.
Yeah, and then went out and started to catch. And I didn't catch many fish, but I blitzed.
Is this going to be a common theme? You not sticking to team plans?
maybe. But I blitzed the match. I had one that caught more than anybody else, but I had a flyer of a peg. Don't get me wrong. I had a nice dolly peg, 3 gram float. Wasn't as deep as the rest of the river I'd been used to. Never seen this sort of area before.
The Dutchman blanked. Can't have been that good.
I don't know, but it's still a matter of you still have to throw your ground bait in the right place, of course, but it was much easier. The ground bait didn't have to be as hard.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly softer, draw a few more fish. I caught a bream, caught some roach. Lovely days fishing.
Fish that you hadn't seen all week.
Yeah, it was.
And what was the result? What did you weigh?
I don't know what I weighed. It wouldn't have been a massive weight, but I blitzed the whole. No one else in the whole match would have anywhere near it. But it probably only had 4 or 5 pound of fish or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember what I weighed that day because I was. It's just fabulous to win it, you know. I won my section.
Well, 2 section wins, obviously world
and they
champion.
were big sections, 30 odd pegs in a section, so.
Massive sections.
Yeah.
Difficult to win 2 sections.
Not as difficult now, Matt. You've got it much tougher. It's now because, there was some good anglers, but there wasn't 30 odd good anglers. But now when you fish a world championship, there'll be 20 odd that you're up against. If there was a 30 peg, wouldn't there? That you think, so it's. I'm not sure that there'll ever be another 5 times world champion.
No.
Don't think there'll ever be another 4 times.
I agree.
Not normal, because it's so much harder now.
It's interesting to hear you say that, Bob. It is, because even like people like Will say it's getting tougher and tougher, but I always think, well, Bob's done it, Alan's done it. Like, the most respect for you, honestly, for doing.
But it is tough, we know, and I appreciate that. But I had a dolly peg that second day, so fate.
First ever world champs win, though. Yeah. What was the feeling like? 2 section wins, a match win on the second day. How did the team do?
Well, that's it. That's the only disappointing thing that Tommy, who'd won the world championship the year before in Bulgaria, was he blanked both days.
No. And
we'd really got a good team plan. We were a strong team, really strong team.
Gutting.
Everybody else had caught, but poor Tommy blanked both days. So we still finished second. Still got a silver medal because Kevin done well. Kevin had a first and a second.
So where did he come individual?
Second.
Silver medal.
If it wasn't for me, Kevin would have been world champion that year. I had 2 firsts, he had a first and a second. So.
That must have been what a feeling though. You've won the world champs, one of your best mates is second.
Yeah.
How did it feel?
And we'd blitzed the whole, but we knew how to fish it. We were, without a doubt, we really knew, out of all the teams, Kevin and myself, definitely. But we did pass on the information. But passing on information, it's not the same as doing it. Because you have got to feed. And how can you, if you're not used to doing it all the time, which Kevin and myself had, how can you do it and get that feeding exactly right, figuring right where you want to be to put your float through?
I suppose it's a bit like putting your rig through as well. What you consider to be, I'm putting it through half pace, is different to what Dennis might think is putting it through.
Exactly. You just got to know what to do, and we'd just been on the band so much, and so much the same fishing.
Fantastic. Did you celebrate? You don't seem that.
We did. We always celebrated going out drinking. Yeah, every night it was the same.
Really?
Yeah, we had a good time.
What was the environment like in the England team, Bob? Did the team take it super serious back then? Did you go out drinking in the week when you were abroad?
No.
It was a serious affair.
Yeah, old Dick didn't let you do that. We didn't have the same strategy on measuring bait. We obviously there was bait allowances, but we didn't. Now you're measuring your bait, knowing exactly what you put in, but we didn't have that then. A handful of this or a handful of that, and do this and do that. So it wasn't quite it was a bit easier, but we were quite strict. No, we didn't go out drinking during the week. Always working, always doing rigs, working really hard up until late. It was hard. Dick was, he ruled with an iron fist, without a doubt. But I had great respect for him. He's a brilliant team manager, without a doubt. Dick Clegg, I don't think he'll ever be surpassed. He was a very, very good team manager. For me personally, he's won me world championships. So
I'd love to get Dick on a podcast if he'd come on one. He'd have a few stories.
Oh,
and
he
stuff,
would have
definite.
loads.
100%.
Grammar school education. He'd be a good talker.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah,
big time. What was the response like, Bob, when you got home? Like, you're world champion. Was it a dream of yours?
Yeah,
or?
no, it wasn't a dream. No, I'd never really. I like to be part of the England team, but I never dreamt that I would be. Don't forget, you're fishing with Tommy, Dennis. You know, they're all heroes, really. Well before me, and they still are. Well, they're still catching lots of fish, and Kevin. So it was. Stevie Gardner. We had a good side, lots of friendly spirit, and we were a good team. And of course, we went on to the next World Championship then, didn't we? Which was 1991.
The very next year.
Yeah.
And where was that?
That was on the that was in Szeged.
Hungary.
On the rowing course.
And how was that? What was that venue like? Because that's full of carp. We go and fish there, that Walter Land Masters. It's full of carp and Carasio now. Fabulous
venue. It isn't the same now as it was then. And we went out. Yeah, you're right. I don't always stick to team orders when fishing. But hey, we went out to practice. When we're practicing, it was windy, lovely tow on the water, colour in it, throwing a ball of ground back, and we were catching catching roach, odd carp, some really strange fish as well that I can't even remember what they were. There was lots of perch to be caught really close in, so tactically a very, very good venue. And lots of fish, just like a lovely, comfortable, every peg about the same depth. Very similar to Home Pier Point.
Yeah.
Very
rowing course.
Very similar to the Home Pier Point rowing course, yeah. So we were in practice. So our team plan, you always get a team plan, don't you? So team plan is ground bait, feed ground bait, ball in, catch these perch close in. So we had everything really worked out. But when we got there on the match day, and this is prior to now, the venue was closed then the week before. So you had to go out a week before the week before, and then the venue's closed. And then you turn up at the match, a week later. That's how it used to be. It's different now, isn't it?
So different.
Yeah.
All these different quirky rules then.
So now we get there, and it was, I can remember the first day. Drawn in this, where did I draw first day? E section, I think. Middle of E section. Down the left hand, and it's flat calm. And I looked at the water, no colour, flat calm. The sun straight in your face. It was. We started fishing pretty early in the morning. So anyway, our team plan is 10 balls at 12 metres, about 12, not the full length. There was still no restrictions then on length, I don't think. 12 metres, 10 balls, and also feed for these perch close in.
So a couple of lines.
Solid. But they were like on a short whip, 2 metre whip, 2 metres out. That's all they were.
There must have been a lot of them.
Oh, loads of them. Bloodworm was the bait for them. So the team plan was fish for these perch, feed on the far line, fish for these perch, keep throwing a ball in out as you're fishing. To build up that line, and then fish for perch for an hour, and then switch to your far line. So the match starts, and I'd fed both lines, and it's flat calm, and I'm catching these perch, and it's flat calm, and I'm throwing a ball, and I'm thinking, no, that don't seem right to me. It's flat calm. No, I'm going to loose feed. I love loose feeding. I am the loose feed master. I love loose feeding. So any chance I got to loose feed and catch fish on the drop,
you'll do it.
If you think about it, the speed of catching fish is always about the speed of the bite, isn't it? So if you can catch on the drop,
quicker bite,
the bite is immediate, isn't it? You're not waiting for the bite, are you? So you don't always hit all the bites, and it's not always the most. But that's the way I figure.
But this wasn't in the plan at all.
Oh no, not quite. No.
So World Championships, you sat there and you're thinking, I fancy a bit of loose feed because of the conditions. But
Yes.
I think that's great angling. That's adapting on the day to the given conditions, surely.
Probably was, and when you're fishing, you've got to think about drawing fish, haven't you? So you fed your line, and you've got to think, what's the best way to draw fish? You know, you got quite tight pegging. You always want to steal some fish, don't you? And loose feeding's usually the best way of doing this, because you're loose feeding.
Why do you think it works so well, Bob? Loose feeding. Why do you think it draws fish?
I think there's a bit of noise as it goes in, not too much noise to scare fish, and it attracts fish on the bottom and also up in the water into the feed and to develop. And if you can do it and get the fish feeding, as I said, on the drop, then that's the fast. So if you put your float in and it just goes straight away, then that's usually the quickest way to catch. And not always the best, but roach love loose feed, don't they?
They come to it, yeah.
They love loose feed, and I was after roach anyway. So I'm catching these perch, and I'm up to about 50. After about, this is one thing where Dick Clegg, this is what won me the World Championship. Dick Clegg comes down. How you doing, Bob? I can't do his accent. You can
Go on,
do
have
his
a go.
accent.
Go on,
No,
have a
I
go.
can't.
Go
do
on,
his
it'll be
accent.
funny. Go on.
No, I can't do his accent.
How are you doing, Bob?
You say you can do it. So I'm catching these perch nicely, but loose feeding. He said, "What you doing?"
What are you doing?
I'm loose feeding, Dick. Loose feeding, what's that? I just think we're going to catch more fish loose feeding. I said, I've ground baited, but I just think loose feed's going to be the thing. And this was after about, 45 minutes gone. He said, how many fish you got? I said, I got 50 perch. He was counting. And they've got, every angler has somebody behind them counting, so they know. Dick could see on the board how many fish I'd caught. And he said, Frenchman up there's got 70. And I said, yeah, but he probably won't be feeding. He'll probably just be fishing for perch. He won't be doing what I'm doing. He won't be looking at what's going to happen. No, probably not. He said, go on, go out now. I said, well, the hour's not up yet. I said, I like to stick to team rules. So he laughed. And I went out with a 0.8 of a gram float, Olivet fairly well up. But it was 7 or 8 foot deep, so I had the Olivet up, but sort of for fishing, not right up in the water, but the last sort of 2 or 3 foot where you'd expect to catch if you'd been. I couldn't make up my mind whether to loose feed cast or maggots. So I was doing a bit of both, putting a few casters, a few maggots in the pouch feeding. I went out with this, the float berry straight away, and then I got a roach. It's probably about 4 or 5 ounces, and these perch are quite small. Just goes to swing. You should net it. So I slipped the net under. I shouldn't really have been lifting a 4 ounce.
You were a
roach,
cheeky lad in the England team, weren't you?
Well, not really. Not when Dick was. But you do things that you naturally do, and of course, if they come off, you thought, I shouldn't have done that. But I do tend to do that. What do you do?
Yeah, I think I'm quite aggressive and like to. Yeah.
So I just wonder in your mind, do you net everything? Kim Milson used to net everything. But
try and gauge it, but
do you?
Yeah. I just think it's great hearing it from you. Yeah, I went to swing it and Dick were like, net it. I can imagine him behind you saying it. And I can imagine you being like, oh.
Net it, And that's it. And then I went out again and he was off. He was gone. I never saw him anymore.
He just walked off.
He must have known I was doing all right. Because I netted it, put it in, and then I carried on catching. And I didn't finish up with a massive weight, 12, 13 pound. Won the section quite easily. And all roach, just loose feeding, going in, laying it on, catching on the drop.
Bob, that's brilliant angling now.
Sure.
That is though.
I think you're being too generous.
No, I'm not. Definitely not. Read the conditions. Adapt. Even in a big match like a World Champs where there's a team plan. Surely there's a lot to be said for that open-mindedness.
I suppose so. Was it immaturity? Was it just? I don't know. Why do you do it?
Won the section.
And there's the catch shot as well. I don't know if that's first or second day, that one.
Wow, little card.
If I
It's
could
from
see my number, that looks like E section. That looks like can't see the tabard, but I reckon Real mixture of fish, though. Look, there's even
Some lovely roach, Bob.
yeah,
Lovely roach.
Is it a roach there, or is it a carp? That other
It
one
looks like a little grassy.
could be. I was catching a bit of everything. You can see some of the little perch that I had earlier on, but I wouldn't have caught them when I was fishing. Yeah, I was catching skimmers and a bit of everything.
Beautiful fishing. And section win. So this is
Yeah.
3 section wins on the Bouncing World Champs now, isn't it?
I'm a lucky sod, and I.
No.
I'm
not
lucky.
having it.
No, I'm lucky.
And what about the second day? How did the team do? And what about the second
Well,
day?
we done fairly well. We weren't winning it after day one, but we done pretty well. All the team. There was no. I think our worst result was about 9th. I don't know if that was Tommy or Steve. Tommy, I think 9th or something. But most of us had done fairly well, so we've got a fairly good team plan. And the second day, I drew the middle section, so I didn't have an end peg. I didn't have any lucky pegs in this match.
No.
It wasn't bad angling. Probably wasn't good angling, but it wasn't bad angling. And the second day, so I'd got this all in my mind, another flat cut, I'm going to loose feed. But everybody else, I had a very, very good Irish angler next to me the second day. I had an Italian one side, so Italians are brilliant anglers. They're always hard to beat. And I had Bobby Smithers, who's like the best angler, best Irish angler. Sadly, he's left us far too young.
They have a match for Bobby in Ireland.
Yeah,
don't
they do.
I've heard of the Bobby
Smithers Memorial. Yeah,
I've heard of it.
He's much younger than me, and he was a world champion in Switzerland. That was the first year he fished.
Ah, right.
He was one of those. He drew peg one. He won the world championship. So he was one side, and I still started off for these perch loose feed and couldn't wait to get out. And after about half an hour, I was still loose feeding. And I said to Bobby, "Go and have a look out there." Bobby said, "If there's any fish out there yet," and he was laughing, and we were joking so he went out and he caught fish straight away. And I'd been loose feeding. It's all about feeding, isn't it? Loose feeding, let the fish settle out there. When do you change? As I said, if Dick hadn't told me to change that earlier, 15 minutes earlier, I'll tell you how close it was at the end. You won't believe it. I wouldn't have won the world championship. So I had another day like the day before, catching on the drop, 0.8 of a gram, nice simple fishing.
Beautiful
How do
fishing.
you do
Sounds
it?
great.
Yeah, but I wasn't really very good, was I?
Did you win the section again?
Won the section again.
Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't really.
There's a
I'm
theme
not having
going
it,
here,
Bob.
isn't there?
Tobes, I'm not having
No.
Bob Nudd sat in the podcast going, I wasn't very good.
Yeah,
4
I'm not buying
section
it, I'm
wins.
afraid,
Yeah,
Bob. No.
yeah, that was 4. Yeah, so yeah,
And-
and big sections, 30 odd pegs. So
Incredible. Can I ask you a question? Obviously, you'd caught loose feed in the first day. Team meeting that night.
yeah, we changed.
Did all the team
we
adapt?
changed. Yeah, we changed to loose feeding.
And did the team benefit from that?
Yeah,
as well?
yeah, because we won.
Won the world champs as a
yeah,
team?
Yeah, we won the second day and we won the team,
Yes. And you won individual?
and I won individual. Yeah.
How was that? That's 2 on the bounce.
So, yeah, it was good, but it was so close. And I didn't fish too bad, because I could feed nicely and get into a rhythm and not miss many fish. So, but it was so close when Kevin won his section both days as well.
Kevin Ashurst.
He did have a big carp the second day.
Right.
Didn't have all small fish. But when they added our 2 weights together, I only beat him by 3 ounces.
No.
4 ounces. I think if Dick hadn't have told me to go on that 15 minutes earlier, I think Kevin would have been the world champion.
Imagine if you'd have swung that roach that were 5 or 6 ounces
Oh, and
and
it
it
fell
fell off.
Oh, can you imagine?
Yeah, I thank Dick for that as well.
It's fate, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, so it's
What was that like, Bob? Obviously, I know you and Kevin at this point, very, very good friends, fished together for years in Ireland. To come first and second, both with 2 wins on a world champs, that must have been quite, I don't know, if it were me, I'd be quite emotional about it.
It was fantastic, fabulous, and when you get all the other countries appreciating how good England were, that's a great feeling. The big company, Italy, France. I think these English anglers, they're good. They are good. Whether we were or not, I don't know. But I'll tell you about this moment that happened, and I've never experienced anything like it in my life. I don't know whether you have. You can tell me. right, the match is over. We've been celebrating. I was first, Kevin was second. The team has won. And we'd been calling home. And Kevin and myself were about the last people to go into the restaurant. I'm guessing about the last. And I'm walking in with Kevin, both walking in side by side. And do you imagine a restaurant with 30 odd teams all eating? You imagine the noise, the clanging, the banging, the banging, loads of noise, isn't there?
Ridiculous noise.
As we walk in, the whole room goes silent. I've never experienced this in my life. And everyone went, and everybody stood up and clapped these two. Even I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
These two English anglers that for 2 consecutive years had been first and second individual in a world championship.
Phenomenal.
Every team, every angler stood up and clapped. It wasn't a presentation. It wasn't anything. It was a natural thing where people are eating, having their food.
That's true appreciation. Making all the hairs on my arms stick up.
I've never experienced anything like that, ever.
No.
Never since.
Absolutely incredible.
Who are these two English boys?
But great friends as well. And
I'd learned a lot of Kevin, obviously, on the band. I had learned a lot off of Kevin. He had taught me a lot. I was probably a fairly good pupil, but he had taught me a lot. And we would, in matches, we'd ended up great rivals catching, either he's winning or I'm winning. So
it sounds to me, though, when you talk about winning a world champs, Bob, everyone, when you stood there with your trophy and national anthems playing and all that, that's emotional. But what you just described there is next level appreciation.
Yeah,
what a moment.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, it was real emotion. So I'd got my second world championship and thinking, this is not bad.
I bet it was.
Yeah,
and what were the reaction from home? Because
fantastic, loads of accolades and angling times, and even all the foreign papers were writing about it, the Italian magazines, and so getting lots of appreciation.
Had anyone ever won 2 in a row at this point? Was there anyone else who had?
Yeah, there was Robert Tess, and there was a Frenchman, John Desquet.
Oh, John won 2.
John had won 2. John Desquet. He'd won in Belgium. That would have been 1988, and he'd won before somewhere. And Robert Tess, I don't know if Robert Tess had won it twice or 3 times.
Right.
But that was very early on, and there was probably not so many teams, but he's obviously a brilliant angler.
And back when it was a one-day match.
Yeah, one-day match, so it's not quite so hard to win it then, but having to win 2 33 peg sections consecutively. That's 4 consecutive. Yeah, I am lucky.
4 30-odd peg section wins in a world champs.
Yeah, I'm lucky.
No, not having it, Bob.
Lucky.
That's that story of you and Kevin, honestly. That got me.
Yeah.
That's really,
and even now, I can feel it as we walk in.
Looking at your eyes, I could tell.
I can see, everybody standing up there all clapping. And it
you never forget that. Never forget it.
That was every nation admiring these 2 English anglers.
Incredible. What a great story. I loved that. Absolutely loved it. The next one, obviously, that you won is massively iconic.
Yeah.
I want to hear a lot about it. And so many people talk about this venue, UK Home Pier Point, 1994. I've seen the pictures from it, and I was born at this point as well.
Just live.
What happened at Home Pier Point? Because that was a bit of a roller coaster of fishing well, fishing difficult.
Yeah, it was really it was really tough fishing. We had a squad of 10.
Why so many?
Because it was on home soil, so it didn't cost. You had to think about costing. So Dick surmised quite rightly that the bigger the squad, the more the knowledge, and then he could perhaps get 5 good anglers, the best anglers that he could possibly, to fish the championship.
Right.
So we had a squad of 10, so then it's going to be hard getting in the team for a start. And it was so difficult. It was difficult in practice, and the match was difficult. So, but this is where even though I've won world championships, it's the whole team that do it for you. It's the knowledge that you gain from your practice, and another angler might find out something, and then we share that knowledge. So that angler has helped you win the world championship. And this, Alan developed a method there of clipping up on the slider, which you might think you do it now, but then we didn't.
Alan Scawthorne.
Alan Scawthorne.
Yeah.
So it was his brilliant mind back then. Clip up at a certain distance. It was so difficult. When it's difficult fishing, you have to be really accurate in what you're doing. 100% accurate. If you're not, that chance of that one fish or two fish, because you've sprayed your feed or done something wrong, you're not going to catch. So, but he developed this method of clipping up on the slider. It wasn't a slider depth. It was only 9 foot deep. You could fish a waggler.
Why did you fish sliders then, Bob?
Because on home pier point, there was always this, most of the time, this westerly wind coming. It was usually, I'm trying to think which way it came. It was usually flowing up and coming down. That's right. But if you've got a big wind on the water and you're fishing a waggler, then the float will go through the same way as the surface is going.
Yeah.
If you fish a slider with some weight down, and if you think about it, when you're fishing with your weight down, if you're feeding and the float's going the opposite way to the wind, it's called tow, isn't it? If you can get your float to go through the right way, that's the way your feed is going. As you're feeding with bits of joke, and that's the way. So you've got to get your float to go the same way as your feed on the bottom, not what's happening on the surface. So that's why we use sliders. So it was only 9 foot deep. As I say, you could have fished a waggler.
Big tactical move, though.
Yeah.
Real big tactical move.
35 metres clipped up, and a ball of, we had Joker in damp leam, a little bit of damp leam, and then added the grey leam to make it sticky. You've done that lots of times, but you can get a little ball of leamed up Joker in a catapult and fire it.
No ground bait at this
No
point.
ground bait. No, not out there. There's a little bit of ground bait on your pole line. Usual tactics where everybody balls it, so you do it. But there wasn't many fish to be caught on the pole, hardly any. But that was the thing. The slider, 30 odd metres.
There you are, firing a ball out. Yeah.
C18.
Look at that.
That's where I was second day, I think.
Great picture, Bob. That's Bob Nudd, 1994, fishing in the World Champs at Pier Point. It's an iconic thing, that is.
You reckon?
Yeah, it's magical on that screen there. You're firing a ball of ground bait out that you're talking about now.
That's a good shot, isn't it? So you had to get this exactly right, feeding right on your float, get your float going through right, because it was really difficult. And the first day, I'm guessing that's where I drew the first day, C18. Trying to think, middle of the section that would have been. I know the first day I only caught 4 fish, but I'm thinking there was only 9 fish caught in the section.
30 odd pegs. You've had some hard world champs.
But I had 4 of them. So, so it's like accurate feeding, getting it exactly right, fishing a slider, getting it running back.
What hook baits were you using, Bob?
Double bloodworm, double bloodworm.
Right.
Fishing for perch mainly, but roaches were captured. I caught 2 roach and 2 perch that first day. So it was...
that must have been quite a lot of pressure in a big section of 33 anglers. No one's catching anything. How did it feel when you hooked a fish?
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, I hooked one after about... It wasn't too long, I reckon about 40 minutes I hooked my first fish. But I don't think anybody had caught a fish in the section then, so I was the first one to catch.
I bet that was, when you're the first one to go...
Yeah. And then it's in. Yeah.
It's got one.
So I had 4 fish, which wasn't much, but I won the section with 4 fish. It's silly, isn't it, really?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's you in action there at Pier Point.
Yeah.
Look at the crowds.
Was that the first day or the second day? I can't think. See... You won't things happen funny in life, So I won that first day, and the team had done okay, but I'm not sure whether we were winning, but we'd got 1 blank. Alan had blanked.
Never.
He'd got the method, Alan, and he blanked.
And he's good at that, isn't he?
Brilliant.
He's accurate.
No, not good, he's brilliant at it.
Yeah.
And yeah, accurate, everything's spot on. So there couldn't have been any fish. What happens day 2? This is fate, isn't it? I draw Alan's peg.
Where is blank?
Where is blank? Same
No.
peg. Yeah, same peg. I'm on his peg.
How did you feel?
And everybody's going, oh, Bob, oh, yeah, oh, no. Oh. And I said, I don't mind. I said, Alan's. I know where he's fed. I know his distance. It's been another day. If there's anything, I know exactly where that'll be. And I did, and I wasn't bothered.
And you caught some fish?
Oh, cool. I had a better day the second day, yeah.
Never.
But it's the same thing. You're casting out, little ball. Everybody starts on the pole. You feed the pole line, and I gave it, I don't know, probably 5 minutes, not even that. And then I'm out on the slider, big crowd behind me.
Because you've won your section the previous day.
Oh yeah, even more then, isn't there? Double bloodworm, just over depth. And it's just tripping back a bit, but not quite enough. There weren't so much wind on the second day. So I'm feeding this little ball of leamed up joker. And you know what perch are like? They like a bit of movement, don't they? So I'd be, obviously you sink your line. And then so what I was doing, I was just turning the reel handle a bit just to make the float go down. You know, just try and induce a bite.
Yeah.
Inducing a bite, we call it. And of course, the crowd don't know this. So every time I do that, going, I can hear a big gasp from behind me. They're thinking, what's that idiot up to? that was going on the whole match. And
They
then,
think you've got a bite.
and then suddenly, bump, you know, the float goes and I'm into it. And I probably caught a dozen fish or more the second day. So
All perch again. A lot of
no, I
perch.
had some roach. as well, a couple of roach, but mainly perch. No, but quite chunky perch.
And that's on the Peg Allen blanked.
Yeah, so that's another thing, fate, isn't it? On his peg, knew where he'd fed, weren't bothered, and of course we won it.
And you won it as a team.
Won at home, Pier Point.
That's special, surely, Bob. Tell me how that feels. You've won the world champs in England individually. And England.
Yeah,
have
that
won.
that was probably the best moment out of all mine. You know, that was. Yeah, look at that. They made a special trophy for it. I still got it at home. That trophy, glass.
Wow.
So it's worth a lot of money. That one.
What a
It
moment.
was made specially for it. I look quite happy there, don't I?
You look really happy, and rightly so. What can you remember from it, Bob? What can you remember from the celebrations and the moments of...
I can remember playing my record, Maggots in Your Catapult.
Never.
As I walked up to get a prize, somebody, I don't know where they got it from, but I'd made a record the year before called Maggots in Your Catapult.
Right.
And
Why?
It was only for charity. It was just a charity thing, but it was great. You know, I made a record. It was on radio. I had to go to Trafalgar Square to do a photo shoot with all the newspapers all around.
Give us a quick blast. Come on.
No, I can't.
Come on, you've got to.
Come whip fishing to the rhythm of a flick tip. Bring your friend and a packet of biscuits. It was a rap song.
Bring your ground bait. Bring your casters. I'm the man king maggot, the whipfish master, the blaster, the master caster. Compared to me, I used to listen to it.
So Sky did a short video on it. That was brilliant. So they played that, but it was just because England had won, we'd won home soil. That was a lot of publicity. Fabulous, really. Fabulous.
Unreal. What do you think, Bob? Like, surely that's good for fishing in England. Like, imagine, do you think we could ever have a world champs here again?
I'd love it. I would love it if it could. Yeah, it would be great, wouldn't it? And I think there probably will be, won't there? Somebody will get something out.
You'd hope so. Where do you think we could have one?
Well, there's a venue close to me, which is the Ouse on 10 Mile Bank, which is a big river. Whether there'll be enough fish there in the summer, I don't know. Whether they'd have to, but it's a big, deep river, 6-7 metres deep, wide. So probably could take it. Got a road running behind it all the way, so that's always a help, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what you'd have to have.
I think so these days.
And would you have enough space?
Oh yeah. That runs for miles. That
Sure.
Runs from Ely right through to Downham Market, so that must be 20 miles length of river.
Right.
Now, whether that would be good enough or not, I don't know.
Not all world champs. Look at the venues we've talked about today. They're not all great fishing venues, fish-wise.
Most of them are tough.
Yeah, very tough.
A lot of them I've been on have been really tough. So
Big river like that, sort of September time, normally is...
would be okay. Sort of, September would be perfect.
What do you think it'd do for fishing, Bob, having a world champs in England now?
Well, it'd do a lot, wouldn't it? But do we need... Fishing's brilliant in this country anyway, because we've got so many commercials. We innovate at everything. Throughout the European fishing, we are one of the top innovators, aren't we? Carp fishing, even big carp, all the way through. Tackle equipment, just look at the companies that are developed from UK and the products. So we're really leaders in Europe. Obviously, world fishing is different depending on where you are, but European fishing is what World Championships are all about anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's not many teams outside of Europe.
I'd love to see one in England still, personally.
Yeah. You'd be on it. You'd be there.
Well, you'd be
fishing it.
It'd be nice.
And I'd be watching.
Yeah? You could be bank runner. Imagine that. Can you imagine that? I'm going to dream about this. 3 times world champion. You won 4. Where was the last one, Bob?
The last one was, and you think, you how can you do it? How can you win 3? I don't know. So I'm still doing okay in world championships, and Dick still put me in the team. And this wasn't the last time I fished, obviously, but because I won all my world championships in the 90s, 1990, 91, 94. And my last one was 1999.
Wow!
So 4 out of the 10 championships I won. So,
4 out of 10.
Yeah, and the last one was a lovely venue, the Castrian Channel, in Toledo, in Spain. Red hot, absolutely baking hot. And we went out probably 2. Then you could practice. You had a week's practice, and then you fished a match. You had the Friday off, and then fished. So it was all the practice, and that was all okay then. But we went out. I went out with Stevie, and we all went out. Tommy, Dennis, Will
were in the team then.
Well, Will was in the team then. Yeah, Will was in the team, and we went out to fish, and we caught quite a few fish in practice. Alan, of course, was there as well.
What was the venue like, Bob? What was the Castrian Channel? Is it a canal, a river?
It's a massive man-made channel leading down to a power station. So it's running from a lake down to a power station. When they wanted power, they'd open the gates and the water would flow quite hard, deep, up to 6 meters deep.
Wow.
Quite wide. What width? But a fair width. I'm trying to think how wide. 40, 50 metres wide.
Big venue,
yeah. Good, powerful, big, deep, powerful river. Probably a bit like the band going back to those days. But now we had flat floats. Flat floats had come in then. So
what were your first experience of a flat float, Bob?
Then
on that particular match?
Then.
So you'd not fished with them before?
No.
And how did you discover them?
I don't know. The Italians were using them. The census lads were using them, and we hadn't got a venue where we used them before then. So, they were all popping up everywhere. So we got to use these big flat float things, which was made the job of putting your float through a bit easier. Because even when you're putting a flat float through, it's still the same. If you want to hold it still, you have to fish with a heavier float to hold it dead still, but you could still creep a flat float through, so like a running flat float. You can run a flat float if the fish are going to take it running. You don't have to hold it dead still.
Now, people think it's a very static method.
Yeah, but when a river's really powerful, you need a massive float to hold it dead still. To hold it dead still when it's really running. On that match, I used float up to sort of, I think about probably 30, 40 grams. Which is big. But even then, when the river was really running, I couldn't hold that still. I'd have needed 70 grams probably to hold it dead still and sit there and hold it.
That's powerful.
Yeah. And you couldn't overshot then. The rules had come in then, so no overshotting. So it's a lovely river. But in practice, pre-practice, we caught a lot of fish. Then when we got there on the match practice, official, with when you got so many in a section, and it was horrible, tough. 1 fish sometimes, 2 fish, awful fishing.
And what are you fishing for? What species?
Carp.
Wow, I bet that was
All
interesting.
carp. Yeah, all carp. Carp, and there was some catfish, but you didn't want them. You had to catch carp. It was all carp fishing. Carp fishing, but on a natural venue. So it was, but still, and I think this is probably why I did okay. You're still going back, even though you're fishing flat floats, you're still going back to where, still no pole cups then, where you had to throw that ground bait in the right place and then just run your float through and just get it right. So even in practice when it was difficult, I was still catching 1 or 2, but not brilliant. I wasn't doing any better than any others. You know, everybody, we all suffered the same, really.
And what were the vibe like in the team, Bob? Obviously, like first time using flat floats, big venue, carp, a bit of a weird fish.
We didn't really know what to do because we knew what we had to do, fish out as far as we could, which was 13 metres then, maximum. So there was a pole limit then. But it was a matter of trying to sort out how to catch a fish, and we didn't really, although we'd had our pre-practice caught loads, nothing had really materialised. It was still ball in at the start, then run your float through, keep feeding. You always have to keep feeding. You can't rely on just a base of bait when the water's flowing hard. So so we didn't know what to do. But have you ever fished when you get to a match and in World Championships, it's usually tough. Easy when you first get there, then it gets tougher and tougher, and then really tough on match day. But this was the opposite. We had a really tough practice session, and then when we got to the match, I started to fish, and the float's going, and I'm catching, and I thought, whatever's going on? And I'm on a 20 gram flat float, throwing the ground bait in, running at 13 metres, full length as far as you could fish. So pole between your legs, throw a ball of ground bait, get it right. Three white maggots on a 12. But fishing over depth, fishing sort of probably about that much at least, maybe more. In fact, we had, when it ran hard, you had a sort of a BB. We had a tail sort of, that had been nearly a metre long with a BB roughly in the middle of it.
And that was on the bottom?
That was on the bottom as you trying to...
Proper ligging fishing, ligging on.
Trying to, when it was really running with the big flat float,
I suppose you're fishing for carp, they eat off the bottom.
And you're throwing hard, sticky ground bait and you wanted to catch him. That's where that was the right way. You'll have to tell me. But we were but the match day was brilliant, and I was catching, and I finished up with 20 odd kilos.
Flipping it, that's not bad to say you weren't catching anything in practice.
Yeah, that was good. 20 odd, 22, 23 kilos, and I won the section.
Surprise.
Yeah, that was
phenomenal.
Yeah.
What a day's fishing in a world
I believe
champs.
that's the first day.
Oh, it could well be.
It's
Yeah,
a
it looks
right
like
net of fish, Bob. It looks like a commercial net of fish.
There'd just been a few of them, wouldn't it? Out of 20 odd kilos, I should imagine.
Look at the landscape though. Like, it looks dry and
Yeah,
hot. And
it is.
You can tell that's Spain, can't you?
Oh, it was so hot when you shipped your pole back. If you left it for any time, you couldn't get hold of it.
Too warm,
red hot during the day. So we used to have to pack up fishing about 12 o'clock.
Bob, that must have been exciting fishing in a world champs, hooking carp on a pole on a big flat float.
But you got the right gear on. So I can't remember what elastics we were on. We haven't got the elastics that we had now, but we're probably on fairly good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a big carp in there as well.
Yeah, there's some good
They're
ones.
not
Better ones.
little.
And they're wild fish. And when you catch them on a river, that's flowing, blimey.
That's a good fight, that.
You know you've got them on.
That gets me going.
Yeah.
Like
Does it?
World Championship, big river in Spain, flat float, carp, feeding loads. Like, that's wicked fishing. That's what I want to do. That is.
We had
really
the ground
excites
bait
me.
sorted. Obviously, that was all part of the team getting the ground bait, so it's nice and sticky.
Can you remember what mix it was, Bob?
Can't. It would have been Sensors because we were sponsored by Sensors then.
Yeah.
They're very good. They sponsored us all the way through the World Championship, so they would have sponsored us. Yeah, lovely net of fish there.
And a section win, 20 odd kilo.
Yeah,
How did the team do?
we were doing okay. we were doing okay. We were all catching similar amounts of fish, but I was the top, obviously the top one. Nobody else had won their section. So.
And the second day?
And the second day, well, that was one of them times when I thought, blimey, there's loads of fish here. I didn't know what had happened anyway, but we'd got our team plan, and the team plan was we could catch fish short sometimes, but we never did. But the second day, I thought, there's so many fish in here. I thought, I'm going to feed another line. So 13 metres we were putting some balls in. I'm going to feed another line at 6 metres, which was in our team plan. But I thought the river had slowed up almost. It wasn't moving too much at 6 metres. I thought, have you ever found out that sometimes when you feed really soft, like it could be far more effective than putting 6 hard balls in? Have you ever done that?
Definitely.
Have you?
As long as it's not flowing.
Yeah,
and
it weren't flowing. So anyway, I'd fed me normal hard balls out 13 metres. So I got my ground bait and I thought, I'm going to put it in really soft at 6 metres, get a nice big attracting area. So I chucked in probably 6 or 7 big. They really weren't only just holding together. And it wasn't so deep. At 6 metres, it wasn't very deep. I'm trying to think. Because I know I finished up only fishing a 2 gram float. So I'm guessing it's only 5 foot, 6 foot deep.
Okay.
There. Because it's just a slope all the way down to 13 metres. So I thought, I'm going to just put this and try and get a cloud and bits going off and try and get fish close to me. And I started catching out. And I kept throwing an odd softball in and odd hard ball out, mucking about. I was catching odd carp out, not doing that well in the first day. Doing okay. And then I started to get catfish out there. And I thought, this is no good. And I came in on this short line with a 2 gram float, 3, same bait, but only just fishing just about dead depth, maybe a bit over. 3 white maggots in 6 metres where I'd been throwing this softball. It buried straight away. I can't. And it was just solid until the end, and I finished up with 40. What did I catch the next day? 30 or 40 kilos of.
What is that? 3 hour matches then as well? 3 hour matches then as well.
Yeah, but I didn't. But I was second in the section.
No. Who won?
A Spaniard. Further, I don't know where he was, but he just pipped me. But he didn't. And so, because I had all the press behind me, and they weighed in, and he's second in the section. They all cleared off, and I was just packing me stuff away. Somebody give me a cup of tea, and I was just sipping me tea. And then suddenly I see this massive crowd hurtling back towards all the press were hurtling back towards me. Angling Times, who was it? Mick Rouse, I think, rang it all.
Oh, brilliant.
You won it, Bob. You won it, Bob. You won it, Bob. Because there was a Spaniard, apparently, who had also won was second in his section first day and then won the second. We both got 3 points, but I pipped him on weight.
Fantastic.
Not really.
There it is.
4 world championships.
Yeah.
Look at that. Toledo 99.
Yeah. That was in the swimming pool.
Back at the hotel.
That was in the swimming pool. We used to spend most of the afternoons in the swimming pool. Fabulous that was.
Bob.
Yeah.
And what about the team that year?
We finished. Did we finish second or third? Spanish won it. I think we finished second or third.
That's incredible. What was the 4th one like? I have to keep asking you this question, but is it any different to the others? Like, you've won it 4 times now.
Do you know what? I don't know. I think Home Pier Point was the pinnacle. I think Home Pier Point, because of the massive support we had. But that was fabulous to win with a big weight. And still, a lot of people don't know this. I hold, since World Championships have been run since 1950 to today, nobody's ever caught more fish in a World Championship on weight than me.
That particular year, Toledo?
Yeah.
And what would it have been, sort of 35?
50 or 60 kilos it was, I think.
That's a mad accolade in itself.
Bear in
isn't
mind,
it?
for the last however many years, the matches have been longer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you were
mad,
fishing
actually.
2 hours shorter then.
You can't be a 4 times without being a bit lucky.
Give
can you?
over. I'm not having it.
But that was, like you said, though, that was wild fish. That was fabulous fishing, but real aggressive. You know, when you have to not think about that you're fishing a world championship. You have to think about that fish, and we're match anglers, aren't we? And you have to be aggressive. It's not probably not a good thing for purists, but you have to be aggressive.
Yeah, get them in quick.
Everything has to be done as quick as you can.
What would you say, Bob? Well, like, we've got to the point now. We've talked about winning 4 world champs, and there's certain things you say, the feeding and the presentation, are obviously massive. Like, what's your biggest edge in fishing? What do you think is what are your edges? You've been so successful. We can't talk about everything you've won because we'd be here for 3 weeks. We haven't even touched on the ban and Ireland and the festivals, and not even scraped the surface. But 4 world champs for me is what we really wanted to talk about. What's your edge? What you keep saying, I know you play on the, I've had some good pegs and you're lucky, but I know there's more than that.
I just think that I probably can be more of a machine. When it's a machine type, go in there, feed there, what bites to hit. Don't be striking at everything when you're catching. And lots of people in that match in Toledo were striking at line bites. So be careful about what you're striking at. Know what you're doing. But I'm nothing special, Matt. I'm nothing special, but mechanically I can probably get everything right, not make any mistakes, never get a tangle. Everything is sort of smooth. Yeah, I just said I'm smooth I'm fast without looking to be. You wouldn't say I was fast, but I'm just smooth and efficient. Efficiency, isn't it? Don't you think?
Must be.
Efficiency with your feed, and I told you though, in those days it was easier.
Yeah, but I love the stories because on so many of these world champs, you've adapted with the soft ground bait short in Spain, with the loose feeding in Hungary. The angler in you, it just works.
I suppose I don't feel it's anything, but I suppose, you do little things in life, don't you, that really work. And you don't always get it right. Sometimes you get it wrong. I've been very, very fortunate. I know that. I have to be humble about it. I've been very fortunate to, first of all, for Dick to pick me in 1984 when I wasn't by any means the best angler in the country. Without a doubt, there would have been lots. And there always is lots of other anglers that don't get a chance. Lots of anglers that don't even get a chance, isn't there? Good anglers.
Yeah, very good anglers.
So you have to think, I'm very fortunate.
What's your prep game? Sorry. What's your prep game like, Bob? Like, how much of a prepper are you?
Pretty good. Yeah, everything has. Yeah, because you know what I said to you earlier. I think Northwest anglers very natural anglers can adapt. I'm not a natural angler. Definitely not a natural angler. I can think, and I can change and do different things, but I do make sure that everything is right for prep, especially in any team match, because if you don't prep right, you're letting your teammates down. So you have to do more than you would any time. Get everything right. Make sure that nothing goes wrong. Make sure you know what you're doing. So, yeah, I spend a lot of time in prep, spend a lot of time with lines, tying knots, all little things that I try to get perfect.
And are you still doing that now in your own fishing?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, I still like to make sure that. And I love making rigs. Hate tying hooks, but I can tie a beautiful hook. I tie a hook that is a knotless knot on a spade end.
Right.
And Kevin taught me this years ago. So you end up with a knotless knot. So my hook tying is perfect, but I don't like tying hooks. Boring, isn't it? But I love making rigs and getting the right shot on. And what's your favourite thing that you like? Do you like making rigs?
I'd rather make rigs than tie hooks.
Yeah.
I would rather. I think a lot of people would say that.
Yeah, so that's me. So you get that rig exactly right, and you know it's going to go in. And because it's with any rig, it's about reading the rig and reading the bite, isn't it? And when the bite's going to come. So I do love prep, and I like getting elastics right, pole right. So I do a lot of prep. Even now, I do loads of prep.
Interesting.
I've got a special room just for
Have you got your own tackle room?
One of my bedrooms, yeah. We've got a 4-bedroom house and there's only 2 of us in it now, so there's plenty of. Got a couple of guest rooms if you ever want to stay.
Cracking. Book me and Toby in. We'll be up.
And so I've got a room that's just purely for tackle, and then I've got a double garage. One side of it is all fishing.
Next time I come round, I'm definitely going to have a look in your tackle room, I reckon.
Yeah.
We've spoke quite a bit about Dick and his management, Bob. What was it actually like fishing under him? Because you've been in some intense conditions and him breathing down your neck in big events. What was it like fishing under him as a manager?
I mean, he was a brilliant manager, don't get me wrong. But he was tough, and we were all frightened of him. Without a doubt, we were all terrified of him.
Did he put his foot down a lot?
Oh, if Dick said, do this, do that, then that's what we'd do. You couldn't go out drinking prior, or you would have to be all work. Yeah, he was a very, very good manager, very astute, very bright at bringing the team together. You know, after your last practice of knitting everything together and sort of settling your mind tactically in how you got to approach the match. Not that I always took any notice, but most of the time I did. Most of the time I was just little things you have to do sometimes and switch. So, no, he's a brilliant manager. Everybody was terrified of him. He ruled with an iron fist. But you had great respect for him. Yeah. Because of his knowledge. And you think, yeah, he used to, because he was going along the bank watching other teams so tactically, he got, most of the times, he got tactics okay.
He won a lot of stuff. He won a lot of stuff with the England team.
Seven times with me as a team, you know, plus loads of individuals. So, yeah.
7 golds you won.
7 golds, yeah.
Wow. So that's 11 gold medals internationally.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Amazing.
It's a lot. It's good.
Not even thinking about the seconds, thirds.
No, loads of those. You don't even think of them, do you?
Amazing. Did you have any world champs or big events that slipped away from you, or you had a bad one in, Bob?
Yeah. The one, I must tell you this one because most of the stuff we're talking about is my good stuff, but we fished in Bulgaria. That was the year that Tommy won it, 89? 89, yeah, Bulgaria. And it was over 2 days, but one of those stupid things where the practice, it was on like a rowing course. So it was a rowing course similar to Szeged, Home Pier Point. But the practice was on the other side of the match length. So all the feed was going in opposite. And there's a lot of carp on this venue, which are very aggressive feeders. And of course, the more you feed, the more they turn up, don't they? So, of course, in practice, we were catching loads of fish. I was using my black magic pole with power gum in the tip, almost lifting out 2 and 3 pound carp. You know, get them on the top, lovely. And catching loads of fish, piling in. We were loose feeding about 6 pints of maggots, Stevie Gardner and myself. Loads of loose feed, lovely. Of course, come match day, we didn't even realise it. It's on the other side.
That's so weird.
Now, Tommy's won this, but he's a Yorkshireman, isn't he? And they are very canny on how they feed, and they don't always give a lot away, do they? So, but Tommy's won this world championship. There's me and Stevie and myself, I should say.
Yeah.
We're loose, blasting in loose feed, waiting for these carp to turn up. Of course, they don't come. There's not many fish there. You're feeding miles too much. I finished 23rd in the section. Stevie was 22nd. Hopeless. Now, that would have been okay, wouldn't it? But I did the same the next day.
2 days running?
2 days, yeah.
What, thinking some bait's gone in, they're going to be here?
And knowing how I could catch once they arrived, and knowing that you had to feed to get them there. But they never arrived. They probably still haven't arrived yet. But Stevie actually drew a bit better that day. He drew near the end peg, so he did a lot better than me. But I really should have been dropped that year.
Right.
1989. Tommy won it. Brilliant. fishing waggler, catching, I don't know, sort of fish we would catch like nars and anything but carp. We didn't catch many carp and very low weights because all the fish were on the other side.
As fate would have it, the following year you are still in the team and it's the first World Championship win for Bob Nudd.
Yeah. And I won it, 2 section wins. And Tommy's blank both days.
Total reverse.
This can happen, can't it? But that really, Dick should have dropped me really after that. Because that was, I don't know why he put me in again, but.
Yeah. Amazing.
So that's another bit of fate and good fortune. Could have dropped me then. I'd never been world champion again. Never would have been world champion because it was I hadn't won the world championship then.
It's in it crazy how it takes little paths and certain decisions you
Just
make.
Stupid. Yeah. Yeah. Just from one to another and these little things that happen. So I should have been dropped, but that was my inexperience and Tommy's experience. Tommy soon realised, it's not going to be quite the same. But my lack of experience, I was still quite, in the fishing world, still quite immature probably.
Good to hear it though, Bob. People will respect, talking about doing bad as well as doing good, definitely.
Yeah. So that was my worst world championship performance by a mile.
What happened when the England career came to an end, Bob? How did you step out the England team? What sort of led that path?
Well, it was about, I think I last fished in about 2003. So I was still, I think Mark Downs phoned me, really upset and Bob, you haven't made the team. Really, you haven't made the team this year, Bob, really. But I wasn't worried because, I've been there for so long. There's loads of better anglers coming through and teams have to change. I honestly wasn't worried. He was more worried than me. But no, I accepted it and realised that I'd had 20 brilliant years of fishing for England. Lovely, loved every minute. But it was pressure. You know what it's like, don't you? You know what team fishing like at that level. It's hard, isn't it? So I wasn't.
Were you ever affected by nerves, Bob, in big matches? Has it ever got to you?
No.
How do you deal with that?
I don't know. But I'm very laid back. I don't know if you know that. I'm laid back but aggressive. I still think whoever you are, when the first cast, you're thinking, but you mustn't be nervous because otherwise you won't perform properly with the way you're feeding and that, will you? So you have to try and overcome that. And of course, once you get into the rhythm of catching, it's much easier. And I've had some tough ones where you're not catching straight away. So it's never always been easy. But I think, no, I don't suffer from nerves.
No.
I'm not a nervous person. My philosophy in life is whatever happens is going to happen. You make it happen or you don't make it happen. If you do something wrong, then okay, you do something wrong and you just have to forget about that and move on. Move on with life. Even if you're watching a football match or a cricket match and your favourite team loses but forget about that, move on to the next match because you'll forget about that one, won't you? So you just move on.
Good advice.
Just move on. Just
there's loads of people I talk to, I don't know about you, but club anglers, open match anglers, whatever, who even in a club match, it's a big match to them. They get nervous at the start of a match. So hearing from you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. And the biggest one, and he always admitted to me, was Stevie Gardner. Absolutely brilliant angler. But he always had this nervous feeling at the start.
Right.
But then he'd get into the aggression and all that would be gone. So
got you. So stepping out the England team, very, very humble way out, didn't bother you that much?
No. I mean, the newspapers ring me up. Have you retired? And no, I'm not retired. I'm still available now to fish for England. I've never retired. but everybody wants you to speak about your retirement, don't they?
Yeah.
It's retirement and death are the same. You hear about it for one day and then it's gone. Oh, so-and-so died and you don't hear about it anymore. So-and-so's retired, you don't hear about him anymore. He's gone.
But you've not retired from the England team.
No. If Mark Downs wants to pick me, he can pick me.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm still not retired, still a very active match angler, still love my fishing. So it didn't bother me. And the domestic circuit and the Irish circuit, fishing on the Ban, I still had loads to go at.
And done well. Do you think, how do you keep yourself fit, Bob? Because you strike me as now still a big, strong bloke. And you go fishing at demanding venues. You go to Ireland still. You go on the fens, steep banks, tough,
hard work,
tough venues.
He's getting harder now, but
the Broads, Norfolk Broads, really demanding.
They are, but they're not too bad because it's. I think always my upper body strength has been good. Don't know why. I used to run a lot when I was sort of in my 40s and 50s. I don't now, but so I've tried to keep fairly fit. I've never seen a hospital, inside of a hospital, so yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I do need to lose about 2 stone if I could. I'd like to lose. But when I was sort of 30s and 40s, and I'm slim, like you, slim and no extra weight on me, but just you will find out as you get older and everything slows up, you start to expand and expand and expand. So I'm not 100% fit, but in my upper body strength is good. I can fish 16 metre pole. I can hold my 16 metre pole with one hand and not even think about it.
Think it's an edge in fishing, Bob, being fit and healthy and strong.
Yeah, probably. And back. I've never had any back problems, so my back's still good, because that can be a problem with a pole, can't it?
Yeah, big time.
So back. I love my electric trolley now, though, for them long walks on the...
Have you got an electric trolley?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, on them long walks on the Norfolk Broads, you might have to walk sometimes to the high numbers and the Yare. I bet it's 3/4 of a mile or a mile. You know, and we carry a lot of gear now. It's not going, don't we? That's fully loaded trolley.
You've not got your wicker basket from corner grade now, have you?
No, I've got a nice box now. But so, yeah, electric trolleys are brilliant. And nearly everybody's getting them now, aren't they?
I might have to invest.
Yeah. Lovely. Just put it on, let it drag you along.
I might borrow yours, see what it's like, and then I might go and buy one.
He won't give it back.
No, he won't get it back.
Fabulous.
Fishing, Bob, it's been a big part of your life in terms of work. I consider you as one of the very few that is a true professional and has made a proper living out of fishing for a very, very long time. When did it become a full-time job paid from a proper fishing company for you, and how did you get into that position?
Yeah, that's hard. Now, I finished work, so I've not had a proper job for probably 40 years. Probably, 86, probably nearly 40 years. I probably haven't had a proper job, but I've always appreciated what the media are for you. If you don't work with the media, in my early years, it was Angling Times and the magazines. Very little of anything else. No, there's nothing like there is now. It's far better now, publicity-wise. So, I've always tried to work with the media, made a big effort. If anybody wanted something, making videos, I've probably made 70 or 80 fishing programs, in the early day ones. And then I was a little bit nervous, because we're not actors. I'm not an actor. So when you first thrust into the world of acting, trying to speak with a natural voice and being your natural self in front of cameras, is when you first start, you have to really think about it. And then once you get into the rhythm of doing things and can talk naturally, then it's all right. But so I had all that in the early days, but that's the way that you promoted yourself through fishing. Well, it was cassettes, the actual before DVDs, like a video cassette.
I can remember the first Bob Nudd video I had. It was in a blue case, and it was on, I don't know if it was the Shannon or the Erne, fishing to hand on a pole.
Yeah.
In Ireland.
Yeah.
Bream, hybrids, odd big roach. That
was a DHP production. And I was fishing about 9 metres to hand behind the Forum.
That's it. Throwing balls in.
Balls, yeah. I did 2 programmes for them. And we used to get mega money in those days. It was like about, I say mega money because going back then it was probably like about £1,000 a day, which is not bad.
It's very good, even now.
That's what we used to get a programme, do it in a day, get about £1,000 for it. That's what it used. My best was $3,000 I got for doing one.
$3,000 for a day's work?
Yeah, I did one with that comedian. What's his name? Rude comedian he was.
Billy Connolly?
No, it was another rude one. What's his name? From up north.
Oh, Bernard Manning.
No, there's another really rude one. Really rude. I mean, crude.
Chubby Brown.
That's
Chubby
it.
Brown.
Chubby Brown.
He's great. He's fantastic. I've been to see him.
I did a video with him.
Never.
Yeah.
Where can we find this?
I don't know, but I did it. $3,000 I got for a day.
A fishing video.
Yeah. He broke me pole, but yeah.
Haven't you had quite a few? I'm right in thinking you've had quite a few sort of TV video.
Oh yeah. I've done. I suppose the Wogan show was probably the biggest thing.
Incredible.
Which you wouldn't. Yeah, but you weren't born then, were you? When it came.
I know
Terry
about.
Wogan.
I know about the Terry Wogan show.
But you know, you have a chauffeur-driven car to pick you up from your house to take you to London, and then you're in a green room with the other guests drinking away, and Terry's out there. And
what did you talk about on the show?
We talk about fishing. Spoke about fishing. Do you really put maggots under your mouth to warm them up in the usual thing? But I can't remember what you spoke about, but. Yeah, that was, and you get paid for that as well, of course. Yeah, so that was probably one of the biggest things that I did. 2 or 3 other things. I've been on The Chase. I've been a question on The Chase.
That was quite a hit on social media. I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and the other thing was fabulous. You know, the lad that just died recently.
Sean Locke.
Sean from 8 out of 10 Cats, yeah.
What happened there? What's the story? I love Sean Locke. I thought he was, I mean, God bless him. I thought he was so funny. Dry.
He was the star of the show. And I was sitting there watching it, and they were talking about, what they were talking about was, what celebrity would you you know, we wouldn't mind sleeping with your wife? You know, what celebrity would you want? And I was sitting there watching it. I don't know him. Sit there watching it. He said, I'd let Bob Nudd sleep with my wife. And I thought, what? He said, oh yeah, he'd just have a little fiddle around. He'd have a little fiddle here and there, and he'd look down. Oh, tide's coming in down on the river there. Oh, I'm going to get down there and catch some roach. He said, yeah, I'll get 1 or 2 roach out there. Oh yes, moving nicely now. Oh yeah, I'd let Bob Nudd. Yeah, I'd trust him with my wife. And I couldn't believe it. I just sort of, can you imagine it? Sitting there, I was gobsmacked. Yeah.
And you never spoke to him ever?
He said, oh, I'd let Bob Nudd sleep with my wife.
That's unbelievable.
Oh, brilliant.
Unbelievable.
And then, of course, he died. And you're right, he was the star of the show, and he's so funny, everything. But I was just sitting there watching it, just like we would. 8 out of 10 Cats, I like watching it. Who would you let sleep with your wife? Yeah, I'd let Bob Nudd sleep with my wife. Yeah. That was incredible.
That is fun. What a great story. I didn't know that at all. I've never seen that particular one.
8 out of 10 Cats. Yeah.
We'll have to try and find it. I'm right in thinking there's a story about you doing some work with Pete Clapperton with a hot dog sort of wagging. That's the famous story I hear about you. What were that all about, Bob?
Yeah. Well, we were very poor. We were very poor in those days. And Peter come up with this idea.
This is Pete Clapperton.
Pete Clapperton, yeah. He's a good. He could organise anything, and he came up with the idea of, fishermen are going to matches, lots of them, and they're getting there in the morning. They're all hungry, and at night they're hungry. Why don't we make a burger van, you know, bacon rolls, and do that sort of thing? Well, neither of us had any money. Nothing. He borrowed £10 off his mum.
A tenner?
And I'd got this MasterCard thing that I was looking at, and I managed to get a tenner off that somehow. I don't know how I managed to get a tenner, but can you get a tenner off MasterCard? I must have done. I must have borrowed it. So we got 20 quid. We bought this old yellow comma walkthrough.
What, for 20 quid?
20 quid, yeah. And it was a beast.
What? For 20 quid?
Yeah, 20 quid. A horrible thing it was.
Imagine.
Smelled horrible thing. Anyway, but I was an engineer, so I cut a big hole in the side, put a flap on it, put all the units in. I put all the cooking units in. I can do something. I put all the cooking units in and the gas fittings, done all that. And we used to tape the matches. This was in the early 70s. And on the side of the van, it was Pete and Bob's Mobile Dogs. We screwed that. So that was the name of the company. And that's how we started, with one van. We were poor then, really, both of us were poor. We started, but we put all our fishing gear, just to put our baskets and rods in the middle of the van, drive up to the match, open it up, serve up to Ivan, and all Ivan Marks, all the top anglers, Frank Barlow, all of them were there.
And is this before you sort of started fishing the big opens?
Yeah. This was sort of early 70s.
What, on like the Witham, the Welland, them sort of matches?
Welland, a lot of it was Welland and Neen. We used to go everywhere. Some of the local matches. And then we ended up with about 8 vans.
Wow.
Going out at nights onto night pitches. This was before McDonald's, so when everybody's coming out of the pub, they used to go onto sites on the, there were set sites on the road, illegal things, of course. They've all got stopped in the end. But we ended up with about 8 vans, and we were making quite a bit of money. Then I used to buy a brand new car every year, and
so it was a really effective business.
Good, yeah. We used to earn lots of money doing it. Yeah.
And how did that come to an end, Bob?
Peter went into baking rolls, and I went into sort of I sold the company in the end, doing fast food, sort of selling rolls, going to so I had a catering business that wholesaled food, did a bit of that, but I had a manager that did all the work and then let me go fishing.
Fantastic.
It was quite good. So yeah, so we that's where we went to, Pete and Bob's Mobile Dogs.
It sounds almost like a dog grooming company at first. I'm like, what's that then? Where did it become a paid role from a fishing tackle company for you, Bob?
I think after I'd probably about 1990 when I'd won my first, just prior to that, but I was on a win bonus with Browning then. I went with Browning in about 86, 85, 86, but not financially. I think I started getting paid though in about 80, 89, just before World Championships, and then I was on a salary as well. So,
how did the win bonus work? You don't get that nowadays,
don't you?
I don't think so.
Oh, you're not negotiating right. So I'd negotiated win bonus, but that was my manager that had done that, Terry Freeman. He was really good at that. He'd negotiated that with Browning.
So if you won a world
because I think, well, if Bob wins, well, he ain't going to win. Yeah, all right, he's on a win bonus, so-and-so. Because then I went and won. Then I went and won again. And then I went and won again. So.
And then again?
Yeah. So that was good.
Good negotiation from your manager, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, win bonus. So
right. And did you have any other sort of incomes at the time?
Well, I was doing Angling Times, I was getting a salary from them. I did Angler's Mail first, so I used to get a monthly salary from Angling Times doing a regular column. I did a News of the World column, which was really good. Stan Peacher was the ghost writer. So we only used to talk on the phone for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then he had a column in News of the World before it shut down, and that was the easiest money I've ever earned. That was just a once a week phone call, and I used to get a reasonable salary from that. Really,
cracking.
For what you do. You always equate it on how much you have to do for your money, don't you?
And a great thing to have fishing in a national newspaper on a weekly basis.
News of the World. Well, he used to write for the Sun. He had a regular column in the Sun, fishing column. They don't have them now, but. Yeah, he had a regular column in the Sun, so that I did lots of bits and pieces, videos. I made videos. You get money from them. A couple of books,
road shows. I remember you
road
did.
shows. That's right. Yeah, road shows. I did a lot of work with Anglers World Holidays. So road shows, selling videos. Used to sell your own videos that you made in those days. That was quite lucrative.
Lots of different things.
Yeah, bits and pieces really, without doing too much. think that's the secret, don't you?
Really
So,
interesting.
because the less you can work you do, the more you can fish. So,
And then you can make the most of the win bonuses, I suppose. What? Obviously, browning. You started off with browning. You sat in front of me now with browning on your top. There was a time when you moved to, was it Fox?
Yeah.
Fox Match.
it was Fox.
How
yeah.
did that come about? Because that were I remember I was at the magazine at the time. That was a massive bit of news. Bob Nudd moving from Browning.
Yeah, and I didn't want to go because they were a lovely company, Browning. My boss, Ferg Peterson, and Peter Delwis, they're both good bosses. I just got an offer from Fox. It was must have been 2009, I reckon, 2008, 2009. And they offered me so much money, and I thought, should I go? And I did go. So I did 3 years I did a 3-year contract with Fox and on a fairly good salary back in those days. More that they sort of doubled what I was getting at Browning. So
Almost couldn't refuse it.
not really, but I probably should have done because they didn't really in those days. They're miles better now because they've got Matrix but then they didn't really have much. They only had one pole. They didn't really have. But Mark Pollard was there, and he had a lot of influence in their tackle, and so they've got some stuff, but not the best. So I did 3 years with them, and I miss Browning. I miss the people at Browning. I miss the team. I'd never had any problems. And luckily, I left on very, very good terms with Ferg Peterson and Peter Delwis. And so I just emailed him. I said, "Oh, please, can I come back?"
Simple as that.
So he said, "Come to Germany, Bob." And so I met with the boss, Pete Delwis, and we all sat down having lunch and discussed the new terms. But they got me back on the same terms, so I was okay.
Wow. That just shows how important it is, though, to be professional, leave on good
Yeah,
terms.
I think so. And I shouldn't have gone because I am Browning. I'm quite a loyal person with sponsors, very loyal. I don't move much.
You've had the same ground bait
Ground
sponsor
Baits,
forever.
Van der Nijn. I was very good friends with Marcel Van der Nijn. We were very good friends, family and everything. Been over there lots of times. So, so I'm not one to move quite a bit. And if I do use other products, I don't always... So the company that's paying you is what you promote if you can. So you don't have to talk about other products. You use them and you like using them, but you don't have to talk about it.
Is there any iconic products within Browning that you've been influential in bringing to the table, Bob?
The best thing ever that nobody really remembers or knows about and has really revolutionised feeder fishing is I designed... Look at you looking. I designed the first window feeder.
Really?
I drew up the first drawings for actual proper produced window feeders.
Wow, I never knew that.
Still got the original drawings, and Browning were the first company to produce a window feeder.
And that was you? How did that come about?
Well, I was fishing. It was an accident, really. I was fishing once again. I was in Ireland fishing a match. It was the classic, bit classic. And they used to put some horrible pegs in then. And I drew on the airport section, which is great. But I drew round a corner in shallow water, and I had to chuck a long distance to get a bite. And going back, we didn't have many good feeders then for distance casting. It's natural now that you do it, but we didn't. Most of them were just a side-loaded feeder. And you imagine trying to chuck that 70 or 80 metres, you couldn't.
No.
So, but I'd got one of these ball feeders, which is a big ball in a maggot feeder. So you've got a maggot feeder with a ball on the end. So sort of, as far as dynamics were concerned, it was right. At a ball on the end, you could chuck it a long way. But I wanted to put some ground bait in it because I wanted the ground bait. So I looked at it and I thought, no. So what I did was I cut a window between the slots.
Yeah.
Got my scissors and hacked a window.
On the bank?
Yeah.
Just sat there on the bank?
Yeah, just hacked it out. And so there's this window in this maggot feeder. And I put maggots and casters in, and then I put a bit of ground bait over the top to seal it. and then I could chuck it 78. And I won the section. I was on the toughest section with about, not a lot, 7 kilo I think I had, fishing a long tail with this window feeder
that you'd made on the bank.
Yeah.
And how long after that did you take it to market?
Well,
or take it to Browning?
Well, I was then with Fox, and they'd got some maggot feeders, so I started to cut theirs out. But it wasn't until I got back to Browning that I actually designed the thing. But I think that would have been out. No, I designed it before I went to Fox. I must have done. Yeah, I must have designed it. I bet that's been out 14 years, 15 years.
Yeah, Browning were the first to do it.
Yeah.
I remember Michael Buckwelder and people years and years ago, and it were all the Browning ones then they were using.
Yeah, that was 14 or 15 years ago, I reckon.
Yeah.
And that's when they first came out. And they've still got that same feeder is still in the catalogue.
Incredible.
Still
do you
there.
realise how many window feeders have probably been, like, imagine a number. We make 2 different kinds at Guru.
Yeah, how much would I like for each one?
Exactly. Preston.
Yeah.
You know, so many companies make
But
a window
nobody,
feeder.
when they first come out, they were all poo-pooing them, but I was winning so much with them. Because you could cast them dead straight, you cast a distance with them.
You've probably
Brilliant.
made it a lot easier for people to catch fish at distance on a feeder.
Yeah. That's what Roddy Scott said to me. He said, "Why ever did you design that window feeder?" I said, "Why, Roddy?" He said, "Well, it turns a bad angler into a good one."
Because they can cast.
Yeah, cast it straight.
Yeah.
So now you can just flick about with the weights. How much weight do you need? And especially with braided lines, where you can use a heavier feeder to keep your braid and everything straight and tight. You know, window feeders really come into it then, don't they? In your distance, getting direct into the braid. The feeder's sitting at an angle on the bottom. You hit into the fish. I won so much money, and then it took a long while for them to take off. A long while before anglers used them.
And now there's so many people use them. So many.
Because you could get everything to the bottom quickly.
And there's adaptations of them. Caged windows, solid windows, changeable weight windows.
So that was me. Thank you very much.
Well done.
The window, but not many people know that, do
Well,
they?
they do now.
But I'm not really a tackle man. You know,
We're going to pull that section out, Tobe, of the podcast and put it out on social media alone.
I've already got it.
Who really invented the window feeder?
I just love fishing, catching fish. So I'm not a designer. I don't profess to be a rod designer I just pick up a rod and I think, yeah, that's nice. But I'm not a rod designer. I'm not a pole designer. I like a light, stiff pole. I work with the tips and that, but no.
You just go fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
As a professional, Bob, and something I've noticed and have a lot of respect for, but I've always wanted to ask you this, is social media. Now, you have embraced that incredibly well compared to so many other anglers, I think. I love following you. As soon as you were on there, wow, Bob Nudd's on social. And I'm sure a lot of people do. I read your comments. It's brilliant. Was that something you wanted to do, or was that something that was part of a sponsorship contract that you had to get onto social media, that kind of thing?
Oh, no, it was never pushed on me. No, it's something that I knew. I knew that unless the public know about you, unless they're reading about you, no matter how good you are, you're nothing. You're nothing. Honestly, are nothing. If you just sit there on your own, or even in a match, and nobody's read about you, who knows? So without the press, without media, and now it's social media, now it's everything, Facebook, Instagram. Without that, you're nothing. You're nothing. Social media makes you. Don't profess anything else. Unless you're being shown to the world. And now when you can go on your phone and do live feed, it's just fabulous.
I loved your live feeds in lockdown when you were
Did you?
When you were fishing. We couldn't fish matches,
Yeah,
but we
that's
could go
right.
fishing.
Yeah, we had time. Yeah,
And you were on the old Dean catching roach.
yeah, and
They were-
talking to the world.
Yeah.
Talking to you, of course, yeah, and talking to the world. Just talking to the world as we are talking now, and catching a few fish, and then showing people how you're doing it. And it's fabulous.
It's never a chore for you. You know, after a match,
No.
it's never a chore to sit down, put some pictures on,
No.
write a
no.
post.
That's all part of it, isn't it? It's all part of your social. No, it was never pushed on me. Now perhaps we have to do a bit more. Now in contracts, now you probably have to do a couple of reports a month, but I do loads anyway. So that's never a problem for me. No, I love I love working with the media.
One of the best moments ever, definitely. You went live once when you were getting in bed. Can you remember that?
Sorry, what happened there?
It was so
Sorry.
funny, right?
I didn't even know I was doing it.
It was about. Do you know when you get in bed, don't you? And
Just seemed to be straight onto it.
You get
he
in
was
bed.
waiting for that.
I had to tell you, it was so good, Bob. I got in bed and I always flick on my phone, little look on Facebook before I go to sleep. I flicked on and it's 10:15 or something. Bob Nudd is live. I clicked on it and it's you in bed and he's looking at the phone and he's going, what have I done here then?
That's right. Yeah, I've gone live.
I think I might have gone live. I've just got him. It was you just styled it out, and I'm sure you finished it with a good night and see.
Oh, I'm not sure that I did. I finished it with a panic. Hit the panic button, and
Did many people watch it?
Oh no!
there must have been some people. Yeah.
Everyone were talking about it. Fred. It was so good.
But there you go. The world's joined you in bed, Bob.
Oh yeah. Are you a superstitious person at all, Bob? Any lucky charms, or do you believe in that kind of thing?
Normally not superstitious at all. But this is an incredible story, really. So I must tell you it. I just come back from winning the World Championship in, where was I? Had I won the World Championship? I must have done. It must have been about 1990 but I think I just won the World Championship. And the guest house where we were staying, Tommy Pickering was staying there as well, and he had his daughter with him. I know Emma was there, and his wife. And the young girl, the daughter of the guest house owner, she was about 5 or 6, got a little pony. And I just won this thing. And she came to me with this... but it was wrapped in silver paper, like silver foil.
Right.
And I unwrapped it, and there's this horseshoe, old rusty-looking horseshoe with a couple of nails sticking out of it. And I sort of looked at it. She said, that's a lucky horseshoe. And I sort of looked, and I thought, oh. I said, oh, thank you. So anyway, I carted it about with me, and I won the it was in Ireland. It was the UK club champ. I won it. $3,000 it was to win that. So I won that week. Just come back from World Championship, won this UK club championship. That was a 300 or 400 pegger. Weren't just a little match. It was a big match. 3 days, big festival. Weren't a 1-day match. It was a 3-day festival.
Took some winning.
Did, yeah. You had sections of 25 and it was on section point. So yeah, it was tough. So I'd won that. So I got this horseshoe. And I took it back home with me. And from that day on, every day that I've been fishing, every match that I've fished, every different piece of luggage that I've owned, and I've still got it, and I still carry it with me in my...
There it is.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. See them rusty old nails sticking out of it.
Wow.
And it's still there, and it's still in my bag now. So that's been there for 30 odd years. I've carted it all the way everywhere I've fished.
Oh, it's not done you bad, has it?
But I'm not superstitious.
You're not?
That's me lucky horseshoe.
Wow.
They talk about lucky horseshoes, are they? I don't know.
Yeah. That's what the
They are
old
meant to be
wives'
lucky,
tale
aren't
is.
they?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
People have them nailed to the outside of their house and
That's
stuff,
it.
don't
Yeah,
they? I wonder if the girl who gave it you, do you still see her or
I
know
do.
her?
I do communicate now and again with her mum. Yes,
Right.
yes. But I wonder. Yes, she probably knows that I've still got it.
It'd be lovely to send her a little link to the podcast and
It'd be
say,
great if she did.
have
yeah.
a fast forward to
Yeah.
9 hours 46 and
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was it. And honestly, everywhere, every world championship I've been on, every time it's been there.
what a lovely story.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
30 odd years.
Incredible. Is there anything left in fishing that you want to complete, Bob? I mean, what's next for you? I know you're still serious. You're still super keen. Is there anything else you want to do, or
only the next match, really.
Right.
Think about now I've achieved. I've got everything that I need. I'd love to be 30 again. I mean, how old are you? 32?
32. Bang on.
32, you know, and you're brilliant at 32. I was useless at 32. So what have you got ahead of you? You've got a fabulous future. So I'd love to be 30ish with everything that I've got now. You know, sort of enough money, nice cars, so I don't have to work. And but achieving life, no, I have a lovely life. Is about the quality of life. As long as you've got I know it's tough for most people. It is hard. It is tough. You have to go to work 5 days, some people. Then they fish. I don't have to do that. So I appreciate that some people have to work hard and then they get their fishing, which gives them a break from what they normally do so they can relax a little bit. But for me, I have achieved more than I could ever have wished for in my life as far as fishing goes. So I am content, really content.
Rightly so. If you were to give any young anglers advice, Bob, there's going to be quite a lot of youngsters obviously listening to this podcast and they're listening to these amazing stories you're telling about winning world championships, fishing for England, winning festivals, massive events, travelling the world fishing. That's such an aspirational thing for them to go and do within angling. What advice would you give any young anglers that have listened to your stories today and have got it all ahead of them?
Well, I mean, it is. I appreciate it's much tougher now because the skill level is far higher than when I started. So you've got to be really good. You've got to be like you, Matt. You've got to be really at the top of your game to get anywhere, haven't you? So, but it is hard work. It's hard work. I mean, if the less you can work and the more you can fish, the better it is. So if you can get employed within the fishing industry, get a good job within, particularly on social media side, so that you're always interacting with fishing. That's a great advantage. Everybody wants to be sponsored. Everybody thinks they should be sponsored. But to be sponsored, you have to give your sponsor something back, which a lot of people don't appreciate. Oh, I want to be sponsored and wear a jacket. But you have to give your sponsor something back. That's why I've always worked with the media. Because you realise for your company, to promote your company, you have to work hard with social media so that everybody gets to hear about it. Then you've got a chance. But it's not easy. It's tough, really tough.
Great advice, though. Great to hear it from you as well. And this morning when we first got here, I put a little picture of me and you up on Guru social media. And I don't look at this until now. Well, let me just take my...
This is becoming quite a popular segment, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
interesting because I'm sure this one will have had a lot of comments. And it's had 124 comments.
Oh, just a few then.
Yeah. So I put on social media, we've got Bob Nudd in for a podcast on Guru's page. Anyone want to drop any questions in? And as you can imagine, there's quite a lot. So I'm just going to ask you a few, flicking through and seeing them at a glance. There's one here. It says Jamie Round says Bob Nudd should be a sir by now. There you go.
Yeah,
that's funny how we started the podcast. On
you
that
have to be
one.
knighted to be a sir.
Yeah. Gavin Butler says, "Does Bob own a weed rake?"
Oh, blimey, Gavin.
There's a story behind that.
There is, yeah. There's a story on fishing on the Nene. We were side by side, and he had this enormous thing. I wouldn't call it a weed rake. That he and anybody that doesn't know the old Nene, it's only about 14 metres wide and 5 foot deep. So when you start to chuck massive things in it, he proceeded to throw this thing in and. It mucked both our days up anyway.
Oh,
but apart from that, he's a brilliant angler.
He's a fantastic angler and a nice lad.
Yeah.
Interesting one here. Andy Bennett, one of our guys, he says, if there was the big money finals when you were competing, would you have chosen that route for the big money rather than taking the international route?
I probably might have done. I might have done back then because it's, I possibly could have been waylaid. Yeah, because I didn't have a lot of money then. So I didn't fish for England because it was an honourable thing. I fished it because I wanted to fish for England, and that probably would have interfered with big money finals. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have said probably I would have done, but there wasn't so many commercial venues, so there'd have probably been a more natural venues.
Right. Interesting. So many, Bob. One of them here says he must be a vampire because he never ages.
I wish.
John Lebes said, I would like to know if there is a story to the white cap. It's so iconic in the fishing world. My all-time fishing hero.
Yeah, it's a big story to that, and quite a few people have asked me about it. I was fishing. This is another match that I've won that I haven't told you about. I was fishing World Club Championships in Florence, Italy in 1982. Yeah,
is that the Arno?
The
in
Arno,
Florence?
yeah. And it's a river that floods a lot in winter. So they've got massive high walls, probably 20-foot high walls, either side of the river, and you're fishing down. And Florence itself, the city, is like it's surrounded by mountains. So virtually never ever any wind. Never any wind, so nothing to cool you. And in the summer, incredible heat. And this would have been July, I should think. July, August. And we were practicing on the Arno, and I'd got a black cap on, and it was the sun was belting down, and a very, very famous Italian angler came along, and I'd met him, so I did know him a little bit. It was Milo Colombo. You know
Milo.
Milo is very famous in quality of product and everything, and we've become very good friends since.
He's there in the middle of that picture, look.
Yeah, that's Milo. Yeah, Milo and
Wow.
myself. Mickey Thiel was to his right. Mario Molinari on the end here on the left.
He's Italian guy, isn't he, as well?
And the far end is Paolo. He was Milo's sort of second in command.
Right.
And that's me there, look, that young looking, good looking sod.
With a white cap on.
With a white cap, yeah. Yeah, that was after this story. Anyway, Milo comes along and I'm sweating because it's baking hot and the sweat is coming off me, dripping. Bobby, why you wear black cap? He could speak good English, really. And I said, well, that's the only one I've got, Milo. He said, go get a white cap. He said, he said the sun will reflect the heat. That's why a lot of them have white cars, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it does. Black absorbs and white reflects. So I went out and bought a white cap. It wasn't one of these, but it was a white cap, white sort of floppy hat thing. And I won the World Club Championship individually, and the team won. Our team, Essex County, won the World Club Championships that weekend. So that's another, I suppose that is another lucky. Yeah. Do you know what? I never draw without having my cap on.
Honestly.
Never draw without. So I'm a little bit superstitious.
What would you do if you didn't have your cap?
I don't know what I'd do.
Have to go and get one.
Don't know what I'd do, but I always make sure I've got my cap on before I have a draw.
And is it literally since that day you've always worn it?
I don't know if it is, but yeah, since that day, yes, in all matches, yeah, I went and bought these flat caps, and yeah, you'll see all the photographs from then on.
How many have you got, Bob?
I was just about to ask that. I want to know how many you've got.
Yeah.
Well, I usually have about 3 a year, and I buy the cap.
That's not bad.
And get them embroidered, and then somebody wants, can I have one of your white caps? Can you sign a white cap? So over the years, yeah, about 3 a year, and I sign them, and they go to charity or whatever.
Right. Wow, what a great story. And obviously, when Essex won the World Club Champs, they were the first ever English team to win a World Club Champs.
Yeah. Teams of 4 back in those days. Teams of 4. I won my section. It was only a one day. Yeah, it was only a one day thing. Yeah, it was only one day then. So I won my section with catching carp on the waggler, feeding balls of sticky mag. Once again, it's still about accurate feeding. Balls of sticky mag, casting a waggler. Couldn't let your fish go out of the zone, so when you hooked one, you had to tuck your rod right under the water and then just all he did was wind slowly. Didn't care where it went. You just wound and wound and wound and wound, and didn't bring it. Didn't as you knew it was getting close to you, then you brought it up in front of you. Because if a fish goes out of your zone, it's disqualified.
Yeah, you've got like tapes, haven't you, coming
so if
down?
a fish topped, of course, if you hooked another angler, then you'd had it anyway. But
Right.
so that's how I devised how to do it.
That's not far off another World Championship win, Bob. World Club Champs is
I
such a
suppose
big
not.
event.
No, I suppose not. Yeah,
Another 2 international gold medals right there as well.
I am lucky. I
Stop
am
it.
so lucky.
I'm not having
Lucky
it.
Bobby, lucky Bobby.
On the podcast, Bob, we always ask a few questions, some quick-fire ones that I ask to all the guests. So I'm going to fire them at you. And I know I've not teed you up for these, so apologies in advance. But if there was an item in your seat box you couldn't live without, what would it be?
Probably a disgorger. Probably a disgorger. Because
Right.
if a fish is hooked deeply, obviously you need a rod and line, but yeah, disgorger.
Do you still have it? I always remember on your videos
Yeah.
you had it around your neck.
Still hanging around my neck.
A piece of elastic.
Yeah. And the new Slammo ones that were designed by a good Italian friend of mine, he used to be the Italian team manager, Carlo Quinas. He designed the Slammo. You know, the one for deeply hooked fish?
Yeah.
That was his design, and he gave me one of the first ones. We were on a coach travelling somewhere. I was in Italy, and he gave, Bobby, try this disgorger for deeply hooked fish.
And it works.
Yeah,
Treat.
it's brilliant, yeah.
Cracking.
So, the original Slammos, everybody's copied them now. But that was Carlo Quinas, Italian angler, designed those.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Love it.
So disgorger, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't fish without one of them. If you could only fish one venue for the rest of your life, Bob, where would it be?
I mean, I love Ireland. I love the Yare. I do like the River Yare. Yeah, I do. River Yare's big, wide, powerful river. Yeah, for me, close to where I live, I love the River Yare. Yeah, I do enjoy that fishing.
Beautiful place. Beautiful.
Big matches. Tidal river, constantly changing. Always have to be thinking because of the tides, how the tide pushes, slowing up, speeding up. Water levels dropping, water levels coming up, keeping in contact. So 5 hours of pure thought, of adjustment. So, yeah, I like the challenges of the year.
Nice. Cracking venue. Venue. Who is the best angler that you have ever fished with?
Oh, there's a few. I mean, Kevin's obviously got to be one, especially from my early days, because I did learn a lot from Kevin, without a doubt. I learned a lot from Kevin.
Kevin Ashurst.
Yeah, Kevin Ashurst, yeah. I learned a lot from him in the early... And Ian Heaps as well. Ian and Kevin in my early years. And then going on to the latter years, then I was mixing with Tommy and Dennis, Tommy Pickering, Dennis White, Stevie Gardner, absolutely brilliant. So we learned a lot off of each other, but I probably learnt more off them than they learnt off of me. But yeah, a bit of everything.
Interesting, like in your England career, and even the names that have been mentioned in this podcast, you know, there's such a broad spectrum and age group of absolutely phenomenal angling talent. Kevin Ashurst, I mean, his dad, Benny Ashurst,
Yeah,
like,
Benny. Yeah.
right up to Will Raisin's been mentioned.
Will,
There's generations
of course, yeah.
and generations of good anglers.
Yeah, I mean, now you've got to, you'd have to put Will, yourself, Steve Ringer, that they are, all good quality anglers now. Lots of good quality. Will, I suppose in the England team, Will's got to be one of the best.
He's scary.
Methodical about what he does, about how he presents things, how he
I hope
he
Will
works
doesn't
things out.
mind as well, Bob, but I've had to throw that picture up of the two of you.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
That's,
Brilliant
That's
picture.
Will. I tell you what, he was 14 years old then, and we fished this big match, and all the top boys were there, all the top anglers were there, and his dad had put £1,000 up,
Yeah.
and Will's there, little 14-year-old. We think, oh, he ain't got a chance, and Will won it.
Did they?
That was at Willow Park. Will won it. It was a special, I'm guessing 20 peg invitation with £1,000 to the winner, and he was 14. So how many years ago was that? That would have been
Oof. What's Will now? 46?
It'd been 30 odd years ago.
Wow.
So £1,000 then on a 20 pegger. Will won it.
Unsurprisingly.
I know where he drew. I actually know where he drew. Drew on the bottom end of Willow. Don't know what he caught, but he had it worked out anyway. Yeah.
How cool is
Goes
it that
developed.
Will's in the England team now, sort of leading and pushing the team forward, and he's been lucky enough to spend time with the names that we've talked about today as well, and all that experience rubbing off.
I mean, but he was fortunate. He was unlike me, you know, where I was hopeless at that. He's brilliant at that age. So you can see, and that's going to happen to you. You know, if you're good when you're young, and then you look to when you get to your peak, you still got so much more to go.
If there's one thing you could change about fishing, Bob, what would it be?
Change about fishing. That's a tough one, isn't it? I love my fishing. I love everything I do. I'd love not to have to travel so far. You know, I'd like to have a venue on my doorstep that I could fish. I feel envious of some of those fishing the Y, where it's close by, where they haven't got to go, and they're getting I know some of the pegs are absolutely hopeless and catching nothing, but some of them phenomenal weights that they're catching, incredible. So I'd probably like that. I mean, I've been lucky, Matt. I can't think of what I would want. Can't think of anything I would want to change. You accept that organising a match is the toughest job in the world. You have to accept that. Everybody blames the organiser, don't they? Why did he put that peg in for? What did he do that for? What did he do that? Look where I am. So you can't say you'd like a good organiser, because there's not such a thing. Everything they do is wrong. So, no, I'll tell you what I would like. I'd love I wish the matches were about 8 hours.
Really?
I love fishing.
We've not had that one before.
I love
podcast
fishing.
first, though.
I wish the match was 8 hours. When you have a 6-hour match, I love it. Honestly, we have some 6-hour matches. You're fishing an hour and you think, oh, I've still got another 5 hours. Oh, lovely. I love it. You know, but so I'd like an 8-hour match. I fished a 24-hour match in Paris once, in the middle of Paris,
How was that?
with Mark Pollard and Terry Freeman.
Did you win?
And, you know, I didn't want to put the rod down at all in 24 hours.
Did you stay awake?
We were second, I think. Yeah, stayed awake all the time, catching carp all the way through the night. They were bringing down big hampers of food and wine, and we were, you know, it just. But I didn't. You're supposed to have a rest and let someone else take a turn, but I didn't want to let go. You know, we were catching fish, so I didn't want to stop.
You fished for 24 hours?
Yeah, didn't want to stop. Wouldn't let anybody take over.
I bet Polly had a bit of red wine, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Yeah. We were talking about it the other day. It was good. Yeah.
Amazing. There you go, folks. Get some 8-hour matches organised, and Bob's going to be on them.
Yeah. So that's I'd like a few 8-hour matches, please.
Right. There we go. Draw at 7, fish 9 till 5.
Lovely.
Right. If you had to give someone who's never been or tried fishing before some inspiration to go and give it a go, what would you say to them?
It's not so much not what you can tell people. You have to let them experience it. So you have to let them experience the thrill of watching a float or even a feeder rod, watching the tip, but watching that happen, and then playing, and the excitement of playing a fish, the excitement of the fish fighting, you fighting, and netting the fish, and then actually looking at what you've done. You know, it's back to our basics of being hunters. Without doing any real damage, we are hunters. That's what's in us. That's what's been in us before anything else came along. You had to hunt to eat your food. And we get everything provided, but that takes you back to the hunting aspect without really killing anything. I mean, but also with the competing side as well in it. So a bit of both, taking you back to basics, really, I think.
Go and have a go is what you're saying.
Yes, but you have to. No good talking to people. You have to do it. So people that haven't done fishing, but they've never done it. Now, if they did it and didn't like it, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. If you go fishing, It doesn't do anything for me. No, I don't. But if you actually go and then the pun is get hooked, isn't it? But it's just one of those things. You have to experience fishing to get the joy and the thrill that we get out of it, competing and catching.
Good advice. There you go, folks. Any non-anglers listening in, I'm sure there'll be a few of you.
Yeah,
go and give it a go. Definite. Really, really important question, Bob, this one, and I'm anxious asking it because I don't know what's coming. But did you bring a gift in to leave with myself, Toby, and the podcast?
Joking. What? Give my stuff away to you?
Yeah,
not so likely. Yeah, I did. Oh, there. Now this.
I'm excited. Wow.
This is the float that I used on the first. This was on day one. I went up to 40 grams, and this was the heaviest float that I used when I was on the
wow, on the
fishing 1999, Toledo, Spain,
Wow.
Castrian Channel.
Whoa, I've gone a bit shaky, Bob.
And that's the original.
You still
float.
got the hook on?
Yeah, still got the hook. I'll have a size 12.
Sorry, is that the
Wow.
World Championship float from?
That was it. Yeah. I
Mate.
used that. I used that the first day.
It says on it, on the winder, 40 gram, Castrian Channel, Maribor, Spain, Bob Nudd,
Yeah.
1999.
What a
wow,
gift.
look at that.
Yeah.
This is the
Toledo,
one,
Spain. It should be.
this
actually,
is the
Toledo.
one you used.
Yeah. Look how we shotted it up. Look, that's in Toledo, Spain. I don't know.
Look at that, folks. Like, that's. I mean, you've told the story about. Look at that's a bulk of shot, isn't it?
Yeah, and look at the dropper that was on the bottom. There's a treble A on that one because that's a 40 gram float, I should think.
This is why you told us about the rig, isn't it?
Yeah.
Earlier on, because you
Yeah.
knew this would come in.
Yeah, AA shot. One shot.
Wow. So
Probably-
that were on the deck.
Yeah, foot long.
Look at that,
So
folks.
metre
What a
long.
gift. We've got Bob Nudd's World Championship. The last World Championship you won.
Yeah, 1999. Yeah.
We have got his rig.
That's like having like Lionel Messi's football boots, isn't it?
Yeah.
that's essentially
Ah, it's
what
not
that
the
is.
same as that.
No, but it is.
That
It's
is
mega.
phenomenal. Thank you very much,
But
Bob.
if you look at it, you can see everything is perfect. The shot and everything is.
That's a wicked.
That's
float,
incredible. Not many people listening to this show will have even seen a float like that, Bob.
No, 40 grams
It's
flat.
mad, isn't it?
Never. that was used to win the World Championship.
And it still wasn't heavy enough to put the float to stop it. I had to let the float run a teeny bit. I couldn't stop it.
Wow.
The water was running so hard when I was on, because it varied the flow, and I had to sort of put it on and just ease it through.
Incredible.
Then you get the bite. Lovely feeling, isn't it? From a wild carp.
In a World Championship. Incredible gift. That's taking front of house place, I think, for the next however long, Tobes.
For the next 5 minutes.
No.
Go on, be honest.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Bob, I've got to say,
Yeah.
absolute honour to have you on the show. And please, if ever we can have you back and do anything else, or you fancy coming on to have a natter, doors always open. You're always really welcome. If you'd have said to me as a kid, I'd be doing a podcast with yourself, I would have done backflips, and it's an honour. I've enjoyed it. I'm sure everyone else has. So thank you very, very, very much.
My pleasure. And I've really enjoyed it. I mean, you're a good presenter. You're a brilliant angler. You know, so much respect for the ability now in our English anglers. They're so good, aren't they? Well, I am nowhere near that level. Nowhere near. I've just been fortunate, very lucky about everything.
Total respect. Thank you very much, Bob.
My pleasure, Matt. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Anytime.